Hey everybody, my name is Litis. Thanks for joining. Quick, one more item of things to remember that it's all the content shared today is under your NDA. So please refrain from like sharing what you hear today from with your friends and customers. As Paulette shared, we will share the content with you, so you'll have the content. So don't worry about taking pictures or screenshots, as well as links on the decks. We'll share those as well. Cool. So quickly, these are all your presenters today. Thanks to everybody for presenting. So we'll have Julio Story from the product team. He's a principal product manager. Fernanda Vela is also she's also a product manager. Or and Shauna from our GBB team, who are specialists. Myself, Litters, I'm also from the product team as well. So we are all doing various things today, quickly looking at the agenda. So I will start off the session today. I'll talk about the overview of CNAPP as well as Microsoft Defender for Cloud. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then Fernanda will talk about workload protection. We'll take one more 5-minute break, and then Julio will do the demo, which will be all about onboarding the CSPM part as well as workload protection. And make sure you like attend that. That will really help you understand and connect the dots about what me and Fernanda will share before those sessions, and kind of like look at the product and see how the product behaves. And then we'll take a brief break, and we'll have a survey link for you to fill and share. Please fill those surveys so that we understand how we can improve these events for you. And then we'll have Or and Sean talk about best practices around Defender for Cloud, how to position the product with your customers, and how to conduct a POC. And with the last 10 minutes, we'll do any Q&A that we have unanswered in the Q&A chat. And as Paulette had shared, please use the Q&A chat to ask your questions. And we'll try to answer all those questions either during the session or at the end of the session. Cool. So that's the agenda for today. It's fairly packed. Make sure you're well hydrated, and hopefully you'll stay for the whole length of the event. Cool. So I'll kick off the session today. As I said, my name is Litis D'Souza. I'm based in Seattle. I'm a product manager on the CXC team. I lead the partner strategy for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And as part of my role, I engage with partners like you to drive usage as well as sales, as well as like product improvements. So I would love to interact with you even after the session is over. Make sure you fill those survey forms and like request whichever way you would like our interaction to proceed. Through the event, I will talk more about like what I'm expecting from you all through those surveys as well. Cool. So first, I want to talk more about how cloud services security is shared responsibility across Microsoft, our customers, and yourself, the partners. So in this model, Microsoft provides you with security controls and capabilities to help protect our customers. But as partners, you can drive services that are responsible for protecting data, administration, workloads, resources, and identities. So during the session today, I want you to think about the opportunity you have to build services around Microsoft Defender for Cloud, specifically how you will grow your services from where you are today, or maybe you're planning to like build net new services around Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So as you listen to the sessions today, have that in your mind that you really want to like focus on like how can you like really go build services around what you're hearing today. And if you need help, as I mentioned, reach out to us through the survey that will be shared later, and we can help you envision what kind of services can you build based on the portfolio of services that you offer today. That's really our job. So we would really love to like hear from you, like if you're building services, what kind of services you're building, and if you're not, and if you need help, reach out to us through the survey as well. Cool. So let's look at why is cloud security more and more so important, right? We have talked to various customers and partners like you of different sizes and from different industries. One common theme that we have heard that is that security has never been more critical. In the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen that ransomware attacks have increased by over 100%. Phishing attacks have increased by over 600%. These are astounding numbers, and more it emphasizes the work both you and us have to protect our customers. We have also seen that nation-state attacks are also on the rise, and they're often too well organized and sophisticated to be blocked 100%. According to the State of the Cloud report, 70% of the respondents are either using a hybrid model, which is basically cloud and on-premises, or they are using a multi-cloud model, which is basically having resources across, say, Azure, AWS, GCP, and other clouds. This introduces a new complexity for security and compliance teams trying to protect identities, data, apps, and more so across multiple cloud platforms. In fact, in a recent CISO survey conducted by Microsoft, we saw that more than 80% of the business leaders see that managing multi-cloud environments is the biggest pain point. So that is really what we want to focus on in today's session as like, how can you focus on like both protecting and governing multi-cloud environments? Another consistent theme we have heard that is that increasingly complex regulatory landscape makes it really difficult to understand the risk that really lies and the impact of these risks, even for organizations that are in traditionally less regulated industries. So you'll hear more about that today as like, how can you use the product that we have to make sure your customers are in compliance with the regulatory standards as well. So let's look at some of the top of mind trends in multi-cloud security as it has been called out by most of the CISOs that we have spoken to. Firstly, more than 50% of the enterprises don't even integrate their DevSecOps environment with any security products. That is the biggest opportunity for us, I believe, both for you as partners and for us as customers. And I understand that this is probably a net new customer persona that you're probably like trying to interact. Until now, you probably never interacted with a developer-focused CISO. And this is the opportunity we have, right? These folks have never really thought about like security. And now we have the opportunity to get in front of them and have this net new conversation. And it's a muscle that we'll have to like keep on practicing to keep on improving. Your sellers will have to like learn more about how to position security products in front of a persona that is more developer focused. And you can see that there's a lot of opportunity there. Secondly, more than 80% of the security decision makers believe that the cybersecurity strategy doesn't keep up with the multi-cloud environments. This is partly because a lot of customers use multiple security vendors for various aspects of security. And the biggest challenge with that is getting all these products to talk to each other and like coming up with like unified security insights is really challenging. That is where like consolidating some of the vendors, security vendors would probably be useful. But that challenge is really one of the root causes that we are like trying to focus on like providing a unified experience for both our customers as well as you as partners. And lastly, this is probably like very well known by you all that the cost of attacks is drastically increasing. It was at like 4.2 million in 2021. It's probably like much higher today. So as you can see, there is a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of cost for both our customers and partners. By adopting multi-cloud security environments, platforms, you can not only help our customers, but also like reduce the cost of both our customers and partners. So let's look at what are some of the needs, right? When you think of like cloud security, when you think of like multi-cloud security, what is it that we need from a security platform? So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, DevSecOps is a factor that is important, and we have not really catered a whole lot to those kind of customers. That is really important, as well as like cloud infrastructure entitlement management. This is basically looking at identities across clouds and looking at like, are they overprivileged? Is there like permission creep index? Look at those and like mitigate and like right size those permissions, as well as like look at like the cloud security posture, see if there are vulnerabilities in the environment. And if there are, like, how do you remediate those? This is more a proactive approach of like security where you're looking at the environment, having a continuous monitoring experience of like, are there vulnerabilities? If so, let's go remediate those. Or are they misconfigured environments? If they're misconfigured, can we go like remediate those as well? And lastly, cloud workload protection that we'll speak about later as well as like network security, which is an important factor. So all these come together and like kind of complete the portfolio of security needs that customers have today. So let's start with looking at like some real world examples of like, what is that attacker point of view when it comes to potential kill chains, right? So the first line, it's really talking about open source tool used for, let's say, monitoring, and it has a vulnerability that allows remote access. An attacker lands inside the environment and executes, let's say, internal reconnaissance to discover RDS. And they have managed to access the RDS from a command shell, and they're able to gain admin privileges and permission. So they then create a snapshot of the data and drop it in a internet exposed Amazon S3 bucket. Now they can read the snapshot from outside from the internet. So this is like a very typical, very simplified example that we are showing. In the second line, we are showing open source artifact. It's like pulled into a container registry as part of a build process or a deployment process. The artifact includes vulnerability that later is used by the attacker to invoke, let's say, a crypto miner in production, which basically results in high compute cost as well as a bill shock for your customers. So as you can see here, these are like fairly routine procedures that most of our customers probably use today. And it's fairly common for bad actors to like actually take advantage of this. Hence, so you need to have a solution that not only detects and protects from these exploits, but also provides a continuous monitoring to make sure we have a proactive way to remediate, to detect as well as like remediate these vulnerabilities. So this is where the concept of CNAPP, a cloud native application protection platform, is really providing a comprehensive solution to both our customers and partners. So let's look at like what is CNAPP and what is Microsoft's definition of CNAPP. So as I said, CNAPP stands for Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. And Microsoft's CNAPP approach takes hybrid and multi-cloud code, compute, identity, data, and storage, and runs it on the left in the development lifecycle, all the way to the right in the runtime protection through DevSecOps, cloud infrastructure management, cloud workload protection, network security, as well as posture management. So this is really the holistic way of like looking right from the time a developer is writing the code and all the way to, let's say, a consultant deploying the app and end user accessing the app. We want to like look at all these components through a security lens. And with this approach, we're able to provide a unified security and compliance capabilities to not only prevent, but also detect and respond to threat across multi-cloud, hybrid, and on-premises. That is really the power of this platform, right? We are not only looking at like one aspect of the cloud, we can go across clouds, be AWS, GCP, or Azure. Or if you have on-premises, we are also able to like integrate that and like look at it in a holistic way. And Microsoft Defender for Cloud is our comprehensive CNAPP solution. So for providing end-to-end cloud security across the clouds I just mentioned, AWS, GCP, and Azure, it consolidates all the required CNAPP capabilities from across the Microsoft security portfolio of products into a single platform for both our customers and partners. So with this approach, let's look at like what products really come together to like meet this approach that I just defined. So as I mentioned, Microsoft Defender for Cloud is our CNAPP platform that provides DevSecOps, security posture management, workload protection, and along with these, Microsoft Defender for Cloud also natively integrates with other Microsoft capabilities like external attack surface management, cloud infrastructure management, network segmentation. And for you from a DevSecOps or from a SecOps operations perspective, we also integrate with Sentinel, provide workflow automation through Azure, and as well as like ticketing collaboration with ServiceNow now, which is in production. So as you can see, if you're using Sentinel as the platform to provide service to your customer, you can continue to use that, but being able to bring those insights from Microsoft Defender for Cloud really like helps you kind of like navigate the experience seamlessly. And I've seen like I've worked with some of you, and I know that you run your managed services from Sentinel, and you really like integrating other aspects of Microsoft into the product. And we have the connectors for Defender for Cloud where you can get the recommendations as well as alerts into Sentinel. As well as like when you do most of these remediations, you start learning what kind of automations you will have to like build in your managed services or in your system integrated services. So we already have some canned workflow automations that you can leverage, but you yourself as a partner can build new services, new automations that you can like sell to your customers as like value-added services. So as you can see, all the Microsoft security products kind of come together kind of to meet the CNAPP definition that I just defined earlier. So let's take a deeper look at like Microsoft Defender Cloud by itself and see what is Microsoft Defender for Cloud able to like do by itself. So first of all, unifying your DevOps security. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud, with unifying DevOps security, the DevOps security across we are able to provide DevOps security across environments. So you can have several, let's say, GitHub instances or several ADO instances or several GitLab instances mixed and matched across many environments. And you're able to look at all of them together in like a single pane of glass. And now you're able to also look at like DevOps posture visibility, dependencies, secrets, container images, or infrastructure as code, as well as like determining whether infrastructure invoked by a code is secure or not. And finally, code to cloud contextualization, being able to look at across the multiple pipelines that I just mentioned in these several environments, and then being able to integrate those workloads between developers and security teams. What this really means is, let's say there is the vulnerability in a code. You're able to extrapolate that and say, what component of the app will this vulnerability impact? Or the other way around, let's say we detect a vulnerability in an app. You're able to come back and say, what code is it originating from? And that code could be distributed, right? As I just mentioned, it could be distributed across many instances of GitHub or GitLab or Azure DevOps. So as you can see, it's fairly powerful to like kind of like go back and forth and like figure out like what impact do these vulnerabilities have and what components do you really need to like go remediate eventually. So moving on, the second big pillar of Microsoft Defender for Cloud is called as Defender CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management. So Defender for CSPM includes several features that are essential for a CNAPP solution, whether it be agentless vulnerability scanning, discovering weakness in your infrastructure, integrating data and insights from other parts of the Microsoft Security products, whether it be through Defender for DevOps or the EASM or Enter Permissions Management. Then being able to take those insights and creating pictorial representations of risk of current cloud environments and allowing you to use custom path queries to look at those through Cloud Security Explorers. You will see some examples of this when Julio is going to do a demo later on as to like how this looks like and how you can like map some of these components that might have vulnerabilities and like how a lateral move can happen. Defender for CSPM also helps you to look at regulatory compliance and industry benchmark posture across 50 standards. So let's say you have a customer who needs to meet industry benchmark or a regulatory compliance. So now you're able to go check a box in the product that says, I need my customer to meet this benchmark requirement. And the product will actually tell you if the customer's environment is like meeting those regulatory benchmarks or not. And then if not, then you're able to go and remediate those. The product will actually tell you how to remediate those and what needs to be done to make the customer meet those requirements. And lastly, Defender for CSPM is also able to manage governance by assigning owners and driving accountability within the organization, and leveraging data from Azure Purview as well for driving data-aware security posture. So as you can see, this platform is like fairly powerful, and I believe that as partners, this is a great place for you to start from CSPM, being able to like go discover and investigate vulnerabilities in the environment and being able to show those to your customers is a good proactive way to like kind of showcase what the product is able to do for the customers, and then being able to like drive either the pre-sales activity or even post-sales, and then actually go remediate those as part of your like professional services or like consulting services. And lastly, the third pillar that we have in a Defender for Cloud is called as workload protection, commonly known as CWPP. With this solution, we are able to look at different workloads that are protected, as you can see, be it workloads in Azure, be it in AWS or GCP, or even in on-premises. And as you can see, there are like multiple resource types that we support that can be protected, being able to look at all of these through threat protection in the lens of MITRE, and it's informed by threat intel with vulnerability assessment and management and alert correlation. Truly, it makes this platform protection product. And Fernanda will speak more about the workload protection part later on once this session is over. So as you can see, the Microsoft Defender for Cloud really is a comprehensive solution for CNAPP. So let's kind of look at like what is the history of CNAPP very briefly, specifically for Microsoft, right? And the trajectory has been like fairly short. We started in 2022 with the launch of Defender for CSPM. And in 2023, we really like went deep dive in at the secure RSA and Black Hat. We launched the Defender for APIs. We expanded our support in CSPM for GCP, And in last year at Ignite, we really went and announced the comprehensive CNAPP services to secure multi-cloud environments. As you can see, we expanded our services and started supporting GitLab, enhanced our API security posture, and many more features. And there are many more features that are coming on the pipeline. You will get a view of those on our roadmap as well. So as you can see, it's been a very short runway. But as you heard, CNAPP is a great place to invest in for you as a security provider, and think of how your managed services can evolve specifically through the lens of CNAPP. So I can imagine you all thinking this is all great, but your customers are probably not willing to spend more money. So is there really a cost advantage of adopting a platform like this or not? And we all know Forrester does these studies called as TEI studies, and they have shown that there is a 219% rate of investment over a 3-year period. And if a customer adopts the product, there's a less than 6 months payback period, which is great for a security platform like this. This basically translates to around 200,000 in annual cost, mostly reduced by simplifying third-party vendor security tools. So initially, I had mentioned that a lot of concerns customers have, the CISOs have, is one, the cost of having multiple security products through multiple security vendors, which might be doing various aspects of a CNAPP solution, right? So with this approach, now you're able to go and see, are there other products doing the same thing that Defender for Cloud is able to do, and are you able to displace those as well? That will not only simplify the experience for both you as partner and customer, but it'll also help reduce cost, as the slide shows. And along with Gartner, we also have been recognized by Forrester and other vendors, and we are classified as leaders in this segment. And we have the links for the reports that these vendors have listed. When you get the deck, please go through the reports and kind of look at why we are classified as the leader, and what is the capability that we are providing compared to our competitors. And that will really help you resonate on what you're hearing today as how comprehensive our services are when it comes to CNAPP. I want to take some more time and talk more about CSPM, because I really feel CSPM is where you as a partner can begin your journey in this CNAPP world. So CSPM has two flavors primarily. One is the foundational CSPM, which is the free version, and then the paid version is called as Defender CSPM. And when I think of how can you start your journey, I know that a lot of you do pre-sales activities with your customers where you kind of talk about the product using PowerPoints or other approaches. But I really think you can start adopting foundational CSPM, which is free, integrate customers' environments, be it Azure, AWS, or GCP, or on-premises, and show them what is that assets that they own today. A lot of CISOs don't even know what assets they own across multi-cloud. This is a good way to highlight and discover what assets they have and what is the security posture of those assets through our product, right? Once you're able to do that, you can really show them what is the impact having a product like this will have, and what is the remediation activities that you as a partner will be able to drive eventually when the product is purchased. So as you can see, the way the product is designed is it's similar to a workshop that you used to conduct maybe a few years ago through Microsoft, where you go discover risk and vulnerabilities. You kind of give them an output of here are the risk and vulnerabilities in the environment, and then taking those outputs and saying, once you purchase a product, you're able to go remediate those through these activities. Whereas here, a lot of that is automated. You just basically go integrate the product with the environments. It does the discovery for you, does the asset inventory, and kind of shows the secure score as well as other aspects, which will help you look at how can you improve the security posture for your customers. You all probably are very well aware of the secure score, similar to what we have in M365, right? So the same concept applies here. When you do a discovery of assets as well as an inventory of assets, we kind of show you the secure score and kind of show you how secure is this environment and what can be done to improve the security posture of the environment. In this, we already have almost 450 out-of-the-box recommendations that we look at and say, these things could improve your security posture. But if you feel your customers have other needs or other requirements, you can kind of create your own custom recommendations to meet the customer's need. So as you can see, it's a fairly flexible product where we already have a comprehensive idea of like what customers need, and we have that in as part of the product. But there could be like niche scenarios where you can come in and say, my customer has unique requirements, and I want to build like custom recommendations for my customer, and you can go do that. And don't forget about multi-cloud, right? Multi-cloud security. I know like most of you are probably like mostly focused on Microsoft customers. So this is the first experience or like first opportunity really to get in front of customers who own GCP or AWS. So make sure you take advantage of this opportunity and like get in front of those customers and like position the product. So it's not only like looking at Azure, but looking at like other cloud workloads as well. And if you feel like we need to expand our coverage and we need to expand recommendations, feel free to like use the survey or like get in touch with me directly to give me the feedback. We really enjoy like getting to hear from you as like what can be improved, and we take that seriously, right? We take your feedback and like go back to the dev teams and like figure out like, can this be part of your roadmap, our roadmap, and how can we improve the experience for our partners overall? So I want to quickly walk through a very simplified journey that you as partner could take with our customers. So the first, as I mentioned, let's say in a pre-sales activity, you can onboard the customer by integrating the AWS, GCP, or Azure environments. And it's a fairly simple integration through connectors. Once you do that, we do an auto discovery of assets. We discover all the assets, and then we look at what is the security posture of those assets. So basically, we are uncovering risk. So that could be your pre-sales activity where you go integrate, you talk about the product, you integrate the product with the foundational CSPM, let's say, you discover and uncover risk. And then this could be your deliverable to the customer as part of this project. That here are all the risks that has been identified by Master Defender for Cloud. And once you want to like the post-sales activity, that could be your remediation task, which is where your professional services as well as your consulting services come and like do the remediation activities. And the good thing about the product that you also see later on in the demo is that the recommendations are pre-built. So you can actually just look at what the product is recommending you to do, the remediation activities, just use that as your statement of work and go to your customers to like actually deliver that statement of work. Now, you see, it's a fairly well-packaged product for you as a partner to go do pre-sales activities as well as like post-sales activities. So I'm hoping that this kind of is resonating with how you operate as a business, and you can like seamlessly integrate some of these capabilities into your existing portfolio of services and then get in front of customers. And I also want to talk about like how can you operationalize, right? How can you talk about this product with various personas that you probably interact with on a regular basis. So I want you to like make Defender for Cloud work for you. So think of like these three personas, which I think is the most common like persona that you all probably like interact with on a regular basis during either pre-sales or during deployment. So understand what is critical for them. Make sure like you can automate some of these things using Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And if you can't automate it, you can build services on top of the stack to make sure you leverage Defender for Cloud and then like basically sell your services, right? So some of the use cases are listed here, like very high level, top level view of like the multi-cloud security estate. If you think of it now, it's really challenging for you to like probably sit and say, this is your security posture across, let's say, AWS, GCP, or Azure, or even on-premises. But being able to like look at it in a holistic way and like kind of come up with a report and like share that immediately is a fairly like time-consuming task. But here with this product, you're now able to like look at it, export the report as a PDF, and send it to a CISO pretty easily. As well as creating a dashboard to visualize what is the progress over time. So let's say like you engage with the customer and you're actually helping them remediate some of these activities that we have recommended. You can now actually show your customer what is the progress you have made. I know one of the partners has basically built a dashboard which kind of tracks the secure score over a period of time. So right from the time when they engage to basically say now, they're basically showing all the activities that they did, how is that improving their security score, and they're kind of showing them a graph of like what is the progress that they have made. So similarly, you can like come up with like various ideas of like how can you show your customers a pictorial representation of like the progress that they made. And the Microsoft Defender for Cloud actually helps you through various APIs to get this data and kind of like show this and using your Power BI or like some other dashboard. Secondly, think of like security admin. most of the things that they are concerned about is like hardening their environment with the recommendation that we provide. Now with this product, now we are able to like kind of like look at, let's say, Azure or like AWS, and like, let's say there are certain types of assets that you want to really protect and like harden. Now you're able to go and do that or share those recommendations with your security admin out of the box. The last part, which is just managing asset inventory across multi-cloud, is fairly a time-consuming task. With different of a cloud, now we're able to do some of that pretty easily. So that in itself is a huge time saver for most of the admins, being able to just look at across environments and say, these are all the assets that we have. And lastly, when it comes to security operations, as well as like your analyst, being able to like look at certain workloads specific to what threats these workloads have, and then being able to respond to those pretty easily, or maybe using like some automation that we already inbuilt to respond to some of these threats, be it like identity attacks, or it could be like investigating incidents or alerts. We also now have integration of Copilot with Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is in preview, which you can also play with and like make sure you provide us with feedback as like how can your analyst as well as your customer security operations analyst could probably like take advantage of this. So as you can see, you can really make the product work for like different persona in different ways. And I want to like start thinking about like when you think of like what kind of services you will start giving to your customers, like how will you cater those for various personas listed here? Cool. So let's look at how can you like respond and automate, right? As part of the service, we have a lot of quick fixes for like bulk resources with like various integrations that are listed here. We also have like various workflow automations in our GitHub repository that you'll be given access to after this call. And you can like look at those and like see which of those like resonate with you and like how can you like leverage these to like like enhance like operations that you're already doing with your managed services, or maybe you want to invest and become a managed service provider, and you can look at those automations and see like which kind of automations are like resonating with your customers and use those to like basically deliver those services to your customers. There are some integrations listed here. If you feel like there are other integrations that are important for both you as a partner as well as your customers, make sure you share that with us. We want to know more about like what integrations really make sense and what integration resonates with our partners as well as customers. So make sure you like share those feedback with us. And lastly, Microsoft Sentinel. I know that a lot of you already use Sentinel as the daily operations tool. And make sure if you're using Microsoft Defender Cloud, and if you want to like stay in Sentinel experience, you integrate it and like use those alerts and recommendations in Sentinel to make sure you protect and like respond to any threats that you see through Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And lastly, you can also like come up with like active recommendations for any customers. So as a partner, you can like encapsulate what is a recommendation set that you want to send it to a security analyst versus a security admin. And you kind of like package that in an email format like this and send that over to them. And they get an email like this and they can review the recommendations and they'll take them to the portal. And then they can only work on those aspects that you are already pre-selected. So it's a really good way to like kind of operationalize the product and like make sure you have a reporting, you have integrations to like streamline, and then lastly, you have a way to like communicate this to people who actually have to do the work on their end. Cool. So let's say you are talking to your customers about Defender for Cloud, and you're trying to like close a deal. We really want to like accelerate that experience for you. So what we have done is we are providing the service called as Microsoft Defender for Cloud Labs. So this is a customer-facing experience where, let's say, your customers are on the cusp of closing the deal, but they really want to see the product in action in an environment that is not their own, but in a hydrated environment somewhere else. So now we're able to like provide that to our customers. So use the account team of the customer to request this experience called as Microsoft Defender for Cloud Lab. And they will, it's typically like 8 to 10 attendees. You as a partner can attend also. It is Microsoft-led experience. So the account team comes and requests the labs for the customer. You and the customer together can attend it. It is currently offered only in North America. It takes us 5 days to like fully hydrate a lab experience, so plan accordingly. But make sure you have the account team along with you when you get in front of those customers and like request these labs so that they can actually come sit and like get a hands-on experience of the product and see how the product really behaves with the real world data, which is not their own. Yeah, so this is the one way to like accelerate some of those deals for you, and I'll continue to like talk more about some of the other things. I have this here so that you can get the content when you get the deck. Mostly talks about like what is the work required prior to the workshop, on the workshop day, and beyond the workshop. So this is a really good way to like close those deals. And at the end, you as a partner can really focus on like the actual deployment of the product. And again, this is only available in North America right now. Please start to use this and like provide us feedback on like what else can we do along with the Microsoft Different Cloud Labs as well. And I know as partners for you, incentives is really important, and it really drives a lot of services for you. A lot of you probably are already aware of the Azure Migrate and Modernize incentive that is focused on infrastructure and like database migrations, migrating enterprise apps. So that what we are doing now is we are able to add Microsoft Different for Cloud as part of this incentives. So this is already existing. So we have added Microsoft Defender of Cloud. So let's say you already have infrastructure and database migrations happening today. If you attach Defender for Cloud, we are adding an extra 15% incentive on top of what is already available for doing this work on Defender for Cloud. So as you can see, there's like a multiplier effect on the existing incentives. And this incentive is only available for partners who have a DB specialization. So if you don't have the specialization, work with your partner development manager to get those specializations, and you become eligible for these incentives. The idea here is really to like simplify the experience for you as a partner to like gain incentives and like really close those deals and like drive customer usage. Quickly showing you the numbers around what that looks like concretely, right? So taking the simple example of the first one, the extra small customer. Through the AMM incentive, you've probably got like $4,000 in incentives. But if you attach Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you can basically earn 4,600. And as you see, as we go down and like the size of the customer increases, the incentives also are increasing fairly in large numbers. And again, this incentive is only available for partners with DB specialization. So make sure if you don't have those, you actually like work with your partner or manager to like get those specializations. And please provide us feedback more on this as well. I know this is like very focused on Azure Migrate and Modernize. What other incentives could really help you? Like this really focus on like post-sales. I would love to hear more about like what other aspects of incentives will help you work more on Microsoft Defender for Cloud. I have this slide here just to like give you some resources. So some of the links here has a deck that you can use to get in front of customers, as well as like some readiness that you can do on Level Up for you as well as your other colleagues that want to learn more about Defender for Cloud. And there's also like an incentive brief slide here that you can use. I also have a flyer that you can just take and make it your own, put your own logo and like use that as a flyer for getting in front of your customers. And lastly, I want to talk about the communities program that my team runs on the CXC org. So as part of this whole project that we are running around like building an ecosystem of partners, we also want you to be part of our product development strategy, right? So as part of this communities program, we are giving you the opportunity to like join us when the product is in the design phase. So as part of this, you get access to products that we are building. What this helps to do is you can like start building your services around those capabilities even before anybody else gets access to it. So it's a good way to like prepare yourself, like start servicing your customers even before a feature actually goes to GA. As well as like you are able to give us feedback, very rich feedback around the experience you have while using the product, as well as capabilities, as well as like what kind of experience your customers are expecting from new features that we are building through this product. So make sure you go to that link and join the community, and make sure you list yourself as a partner while joining, so we know you are trying to join. You are trying to partake in this program as a partner, and I'll reach out back to you once you join the communities to figure out like what kind of capabilities can you like give us feedback on. So that is all I had today. The next session is with Fernanda. We'll take a quick 5-minute break and come back to you.
Linus, actually, we have a couple questions for you in the window. If you could maybe address those before we go on break.
Sure.
One of them is, would it be possible for the DFC labs to be partner-led?
Great question. Investigating that, no promises just now. we'll figure out if it can be partner-led. Right now, it is Microsoft-led. You can attend as a partner. But yeah, that is good feedback. I think that makes sense to investigate if that could be partner-led and partners can present to our customers. So yeah, feedback taken, and I'll follow up on that.
On the same topic, and when will it be available in other regions?
The honest answer is I don't know. I think we will look at the success of the project in North America the next couple of months and see what kind of impact we are able to do. We really like design these labs to like accelerate and close deals. So we want to look at like how many deals are we like closing and accelerating, and based on that, we'll investigate what regions we want to like expand that further to, if at all we can. And I know that like all regions have their own like unique nuances, so we'll have to like figure out like does it even make sense like expand these experiences in other regions, of it is the cost that we are on taking on your behalf as well as on our customers' behalf to like give them that experience of hands-on experience. So we will see, but fair feedback noted as well.
Great, thank you, Stephen and Ryan. I hope that suffices your answer for now. And then Oliver also wanted to know if there's somewhere we need to go for the Defender for Cloud lab experience. I think you just answered that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you will have to basically use the account team of the customer to request this labs. So you can ask your account team to request these labs, and internally they know the procedure to like request these labs. And once the request is after 5 days, you have the opportunity to like pick a date and like come attend the lab experience. So the account teams are the ones who will request the labs on your behalf, basically.
Great. And I did put a question in the window for our attendees. Do you have current priorities for securing cloud workloads? Let us know. We do have one answer from Stephen. Security AI constantly a topic with CIOs and CISOs. Great answer. So keep giving us feedback in the chat, and we will see you back here in 5 minutes. Thank you, Litis.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks all for staying over. So the next session is with Fernanda, and she's going to talk about workload production. Fernanda is a product manager on the CXC team and works with customers on a regular basis, has a lot of experience and knowledge around what customers need and how customers use our platform. So off to you, Fernanda.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to start sharing. Okay, so perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. So I'm Fernanda Pella, and I'm a product manager within Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And in these next 45 minutes or so, I'll talk about how Microsoft Defender for Cloud helps you protect your workloads. And if you have any questions, please just write them down in the chat where my colleagues will answer them, or I'll answer them after my presentation. So with Microsoft Defender for Cloud's workload protection, you can get a very comprehensive threat detection for both cloud and on-premises environments. And first, right here in the first pillar, we have the MITRE ATT&CK framework mapping. And this helps us understand and mitigate threats across like the entire attack lifecycle by mapping our security alerts to this framework. Next, we have our leading threat intelligence. So here we leverage Microsoft's global threat intelligence, and we analyze trillions of signals daily to really stay ahead of new and emerging threats. And so we provide you with the latest protection based on this. Then in the third pillar, we have agentless vulnerability assessment and management. And with this, you can identify and fix vulnerabilities before they're even exploited without needing any agents to deploy on your system. So this keeps your environment very secure and compliant for those rapid workloads that need to just be deployed and then like maybe deleted. And finally, we offer threat detection and response. And this uncovers like the entire attack story across the end user assets and cloud infrastructure in a single XDR. experience that is going to help you detect, investigate, and respond to threats. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud really stands out because it provides protection for your multi-cloud and on-premises workloads with built-in capabilities. Like I said previously, we support multi-cloud and hybrid environments through agentless onboarding for posture management that helps you prioritize security recommendations using Secure Score and also workload-specific signals along with threat alerts. This is going to enable you to fully gain insights into the security state of your cloud workloads across Azure, AWS, GCP, and also on-premises. It's also going to help you address security vulnerabilities because we help you prioritize recommendations. And this also is going to enable you to improve your secure score overall, and which this translates into your cloud security posture. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud, like Litus was mentioning at the beginning, is our solution for cloud security posture management and also for cloud workload protection. This is a full CNAPP solution that goes from code to cloud. And here we have the workloads that we protect that span across compute, service layer, databases and storage, AWS workloads, GCP workloads, and on-premises workloads. Now, one of these is Defender for Servers. And so Defender for Servers is a multi-layer protection solution that is both multi-cloud and for on-premises environments. And it offers you visibility into your environment, including, for example, device and software inventories, and really helps you ensure compliance with a lot of standards with regulatory compliance. So if you're keeping track of CIS, NIST, HIPAA, or even like your own custom initiatives, you can really keep track of that. Now, in the threat protection area, we provide advanced controls and detection and response tools that are specifically designed to protect servers. And many of these capabilities come from our integration with Defender for Endpoint, which includes threat detection, response, prevention, and also threat hunting. And all of these findings are also consolidated in the unified XDR experience that allows you to investigate everything from a single place. And Defender for Servers is going to include this integrated license for Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. It also includes security baselines and OS level assessments. It's going to have vulnerability assessment scanning, adaptive application controls, file integrity monitoring, agentless vulnerability scanning, which gives you frictionless visibility into your software inventory using Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. That also provides like a very deep analysis of the OS configuration. Plus, we also offer, for example, just-in-time VM access for management ports, network layer threat detection, and so much more. Also, very important here to mention, we have been announcing for a while now how we are simplifying the way that you onboard to Defender for Servers, which will bring a seamless experience with a hybrid approach, meaning that you can do it all with just a single agent, which is known as the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And you can also take advantage of all of our agentless scanning. We just did recently, like maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a very descriptive webinar on this topic that I really recommend watching, and I'll paste the link on the screen, or someone from my team is gonna help you see that on the screen. So yeah, so make sure you take a look into that video. Very well explained about how we're transitioning into this single agent for Defender for servers. So another plan that we offer within Microsoft Defender for Cloud is Defender for Containers. And when we talk about containers, we come across some security challenges that makes us see container security very differently from a traditional security point of view. And one of these challenges is that it has an ephemeral nature of the environment, which then requires like a very high demand for visibility and control. Here are some stats that we just put there in blue and in green. So around 44% of containers live less than 5 minutes. And 50% of the container images get replaced in 1 week or even less. Another challenge is the software development lifecycle, where first the application code is developed and then built, tested, and packaged into a container image. Then this image is stored into a container registry from where it can be pulled when needed to be deployed. And then finally, the image is then deployed into the cloud environment where it is run as a container. And so throughout this entire life cycle of a container, it is very crucial to have continuous monitoring and updates to really ensure that the container remains secure and up to date in each one of those stages. Now, for advanced security for containers, Defender for Containers and Defender CSPM together are a very great solution to consider. Firstly, they offer agentless discovery capabilities. And this means that they can automatically identify the workloads that are running on your Kubernetes clusters and populate them into the cloud security graph for advanced analysis. So you can write queries to find out, for example, if you have any internet exposed Kubernetes workloads that are running containers with high severity vulnerabilities and high privileges, which helps you really prioritize like the most critical issues. I think all of this is going to be shown in the demonstration that Julie is going to do, so that you can see how the cloud security graph kind of like works. Next, we have Defender for Containers, which helps prevent risks before they even happen. And so it is going to provide an admission controller webhook to detect and prevent misconfigurations at the cluster level. And this is going to harden your Kubernetes environment by blocking deployments of images from untrusted registries and ensuring that the containers don't run with, for example, root privileges, among like other protections that we offer there. Then we also offer agentless vulnerability assessments for images that are hosted in the Azure Container Registry, which is known as ACR, and also on Amazon Elastic Registry. And these images are going to be scanned every single day, and we provide insights on exploitability so that you can really prioritize vulnerabilities with known exploits. Now for threat detection, Defender for Containers is going to deploy an agent as a daemon set in your Kubernetes clusters. And this is going to provide a unified container security across Azure, AWS, GCP, and on-premises, with over 60 Kubernetes-aware detections that are going to leverage threat intelligence, which we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. It's also going to leverage behavioral analysis and anomaly detections. So you get like a very comprehensive coverage for your containers. Plus, all of these detections are mapped to the Kubernetes MITRE ATT&CK matrix, and you can automate your response to alerts via logic apps or by integrating with the SIEMs or solutions. This is not only for Defender for Containers, but it's like across all of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Suite that you can automate response to alerts via logic apps and also integrate the security alerts to your SIEM solution. So, like I mentioned before, you can leverage Defender CSPM to get, and I'm going to list it, just read it from here. You're going to get agentless discovery of Kubernetes and container registry state. You're going to get agentless vulnerability assessments, container image scanning at build. You're going to get access to the attack path analysis and also to the Cloud Security Explorer for risk hunting and map your container images from code to cloud. So this is within the Defender CSPM portion. Now, if you integrate it with Defender for Containers, it's going to bring you even more advanced container security, like, for example, agentless near real-time threat detection of the Kubernetes management layer. You can also identify and block Kubernetes misconfigurations, get guidelines to investigate and mitigate threats, and have runtime detection of your attacks and suspicious activities with a very deep operating system visibility. Now, Microsoft Defender for Cloud also has a plan that is for databases. This is the Defender for databases. And let's see which databases we protect. So we have managed SQL PaaS resources, which are the Azure SQL database, the Azure SQL managed instance, the Azure SQL Elastic pools, and your dedicated SQL pool in Azure CNAPP Analytics. So this is like the first layer. Then we have also Defender for SQL IaaS resources, where you can protect your SQL servers that are hosted on a machine, such as an Azure virtual machine, an on-premises machine, an Azure Arc-enabled SQL server, but also your SQL servers that are hosted in AWS and GCP. And specifically talking here is the AWS RDS Custom, the AWS EC2, and Google Compute Engine VM. If we go a little bit lower there, we also offer protection for open source databases in Azure, like MariaDB, MySQL, and PostgreSQL. And we also have protection for Azure Cosmos DB. Now, it is very simple to enable it, just as any of the other plans that we have. This is just like showcasing you how to do it via the portal, but we have many methods to enable. So you can use like REST APIs, you can do templates, you can do so many things. And so in this screen, we're showing you how to enable it at the subscription level, which is what we usually recommend so that your current and your future databases are protected. So in a nutshell, you're going to go to the Azure portal, and then you're going to open Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and then go into the environment settings. And then from there, you can select a subscription where you want to enable this plan. And under the databases plan that we have selected right there in the image, there's a select types button that when you click on it, it will display on the right side of the screen the variety of database resource types that you can enable. It is going to show you the price and the resource quantity of each database type. And yeah, like I said before, you can enable these plans via REST APIs, PowerShell, Azure CLI, ARM templates. Like I said, this is just showcasing the Azure portal experience. And so let's talk a little bit more about like the capabilities that we give you for databases protection. So with Microsoft Defender for Databases, we harness the power of Microsoft's research and threat intelligence to provide a robust protection for your database environments. And firstly, we have brute force attack detection. So this includes identifying potential brute force attempts, whether they're targeting valid users or successful brute force attempts. These detections help us prevent unauthorized access before it becomes a problem. Next, we focus on access anomalies. And so Defender for Databases can detect unusual access patterns, such as logins from unusual locations or suspicious IP addresses. We also monitor for anomalies in principals, domains, and even suspicious applications. So this is really going to ensure that any unusual activity is quickly identified and addressed. Finally, we look at query anomalies. So we protect against vulnerabilities like potential SQL injection attacks and monitor for unusual data extraction patterns. Additionally, we detect anomalous script executions, whether they're from external sources or obfuscated to hide like the really true intent. So all of these capabilities are integrated into this holistic security approach that covers the entire attack lifecycle from initial access to command and control. And with Defender for Databases, you're going to get this complete and proactive defensive strategy that really ensures that your database environments are secure and protected against all of these evolving threats that are tailored only for databases. Now, let's jump into a topic that I really love, and this is Defender for Storage. So I didn't mention it before at the presentation. So I work within like the Defender for Cloud team, but I'm really focused more into Defender for Storage. So this is like my main love language. So let's just start here. So today we're seeing a very significant shift into how organizations handle data and where unstructured data is emerging as the backbone of modern business operations. And in fact, right here, we're just putting it there, unstructured data, which includes text, images, videos, accounts now for approximately 80% of the data processed by organizations daily. And this is not slowing down. This is just continuing to grow. So unstructured data is really becoming increasingly vital for businesses across all sectors. Now, one of the key challenges that organizations face in cloud storage security is the risk of malware uploads. And cloud storage often works as this first entry point for malware and as a distribution point within an organization's network. Malware uploads can also lead to data breaches, operational disruptions, and also reputational damage for an organization. Another critical challenge is data exfiltration, which is the unauthorized transfer of data outside of the organization. And without any in-depth visibility, organizations sometimes fail to detect and prevent the malicious exfiltration events. Finally, another challenge is data corruption, which is caused by malicious actors using infrastructure tools to encrypt and delete data. Now, we have three main components in Defender for Storage. And the first one is the ability to analyze data plane logs to do activity monitoring and send security alerts on suspicious and anomalous activities. When I mention the data plane, I refer to the actual flow of the data within your storage environment. This is going to include activities such as uploading or downloading files, accessing data, and performing operations on stored objects. And so by analyzing these data plane logs, Defender for Storage can monitor these activities, and it can detect patterns that are indicative of security threats, such as unauthorized access attempts, abnormal data access patterns, or suspicious file uploads. Now, the second thing that I want to mention right here is that we also have the capability to detect sensitive data, and when there's suspicious activities on that sensitive data. In the security alerts, we bring a lot of context, like what is the information type, what's the sensitivity, where is it located, which IP, for example, access it, and so much more. And another cool feature that we have is the upon upload malware scanning, which is scanning blocks that are uploaded to the storage account in near real time. I really recommend that you go and test it out in your environment, like just like upload a 2 gig file, and you're gonna see that the results come within like the first 5 seconds or less. So we provide very fast scanning results, and we're triggering security alerts when we detect malicious content. If you get to experience or explore this feature, you're gonna see index tags that are within the file. So you're gonna have like that quick result that says, oh, there's a malicious, this is a malicious file. You're also gonna get a security alert. You're also gonna get an email that tells you that there was malware uploaded to a specific storage account. And just as NDA here, we're currently working to bring malware scanning for files that are up to 50 gigabytes. If you are under this NDA in the private community channel, we already have there like the private preview so that you can onboard a specific subscription so that you can test it out and see what you think about it. Now, Defender for Storage also detects entities without identities. And let me explain here. So almost everyone uses keys. And the problem is that there's a whole world of activity that is happening within the data plane that remains unseen if you only focus on the control plane. The general recommendation is to disable the use of access keys, but yet they're still incredibly popular. In fact, 2/3 of the traffic on Azure storage relies on keys and SAS tokens for authentication. The SAS tokens are called shared access signatures, and they're derived from these access keys, and they have a defined scope and an expiration. However, when creating SAS tokens, there's no record of how many they exist, what their permissions are, or if they're still being active. So if attackers manage to get access to these keys or tokens, they're going to get direct access to your data. So detecting leaked or compromised keys and tokens is incredibly difficult because they lack identities. And most security teams don't monitor, like I said, this data plane. And so this is where Defender for Storage comes in very handy because it's going to analyze all of the logs of all transactions, and it's going to extract the insights from there. So it's going to provide visibility and the security that you need. Defender for Storage is going to help you identify the early signs of breach that come from the inside. So for example, maybe it's someone who's working inside of the organization, but also from third-party partners who have high permissions to your environment, and maybe they have been compromised. Or even from external sources that can attack your storage accounts directly, or from already compromised workloads in the environment. So we're going to catch all of these types of threats in all of the steps of the kill chain. And so that's why Defender for Storage has such a comprehensive detection suite that is integrated with malware scanning and also with sensitive data. And the detections look at the operations on the data and the data itself. There are 5 detection families. So the first one is identifying malicious content that is uploaded and then distributed. The second one is sensitive data exposure and exfiltration. Then we have the third one, which is suspicious access patterns. The fourth one, suspicious behaviors. And the fifth, compromised access tokens. So this is entire Defender for Storage suite. These are the things that we look so that, yeah, you can test it out. Now, changing to another topic. With Defender for Cloud, we also have an offer for the cloud service layer protection. One of these plans is Defender for Resource Manager, and probably most of you are familiar with Azure Resource Manager, that is better known as ARM, which is the deployment and management service for Azure that lets you create, update, and delete resources in Azure. So Defender for Resource Manager is going to monitor the resource management operations in your organization, whether they're performed through the Azure portal, REST APIs, Azure CLI, or other Azure programmatic clients. Then we have Defender for DNS, which provides another layer of protection for resources that use Azure DNS. And with this, we detect suspicious and anomalous activities like data exfiltration from your Azure resources using DNS tunneling. We're going to detect malware communicating with command and control servers. We're also going to detect DNS attacks and communication with domains that are used for malicious activities such as phishing, crypto mining, and so much more. And within this entire service layer area, we also have Defender for Key Vault. So Azure Key Vault is a service that stores encryption keys and secrets like certificates, connection strings, passwords, and so much on. And so Microsoft Defender for Key Vault is going to help you detect unusual and potential harmful attempts to access or exploit your Key Vault accounts. Now, let's explore another plan that is called Defender for APIs. And so in Defender for APIs, we are able to protect APIs that are part of APIM, which is the Azure API Management. So if the APIs are sitting behind the Azure API Management, then we will be able to protect them with these capabilities. One of these capabilities is classifying and understanding the security posture of your APIs. This is going to give you visibility into which APIs you have. And then we have hardened API configuration and prioritize risk remediation. Here, we're going to give you insights into your API configuration, the version that you have, if they're behind a virtual network or not, among other things. And these come as part of our security recommendations that include remediation steps, automations, governance, all of those things. Now, we also have the capability to monitor and protect your APIs against attacks in runtime. Now, I want to expand a little bit more on the capabilities that I just mentioned. So we have classify and understand the security posture of your APIs. And the first thing to call out here is that we give you a unified inventory that shows you all of your APIs and their endpoints and when they were last called and if they are actually using any authentication. We also give you data classification, which can be both built-in and custom sensitive information types and labels as defined by your Microsoft Information Protection Purview governance rules. And if you don't have Purview configured in your environment, then the APIs are classified with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud default classification rule. This also applies to many other plans that we have within Microsoft Defender for Cloud. But if you integrate Defender for APIs with Defender CSPM, you'll see all of this sensitive information through the Cloud Security Graph and also through attack paths. And beyond that, in the security alerts that we provide, you will have all the sensitive context, like for example, when the last scan was performed, the most sensitive label found in the API endpoint, information types that were found, and whether they are based on custom rules and the file types of the sensitive data. Now, when we look at the other capability that helps you harden API configurations and prioritize risk remediation, we mean that we're going to give you the security best practices in the way of security recommendations, which look at misconfiguration, broken authentication flaws, and so much more. We actually have a list of all of these recommendations and security alerts that we provide for each one of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud plans that we offer. I'll paste it in the chat in a bit. But yeah, there you can find all of the security recommendations, all of the security alerts for each one of the plans that we have within Defender for Cloud. Now, to conclude this section on cloud workload protection, Microsoft Defender for Cloud offers many ways for you to respond and automate response whenever you get a security recommendation and a security alert. Julia will show you in a demo how recommendations and alerts look like, but let me just try to put it into words in here. So each recommendation that you're gonna get will come with a description. It also gonna have the steps on how to remediate, among many other things. Some of the recommendations will already have a quick fix button that literally you just click, and they're gonna, like, these are gonna help you remediate the security recommendation that you're looking at. You can also automate response by building your own scripts and logic apps, which we have a huge GitHub repo where you can get some samples to start automating in your environment. Someone in my team will paste it in the chat. And so from there, you can see like our entire collection of logic apps, PowerShell scripts, workbooks, and so much more. And we also now natively integrate with ServiceNow, which is incredibly helpful for so many customers who want to have governance. So, for example, you can define that every time a specific security alert or a recommendation pops up in, let's say, in the area of storage, you can create a ticket via ServiceNow that is assigned to a team or to a specific person. And in each one of the security recommendations, you're gonna have the ServiceNow ID and also who is the person in charge. I think something that I haven't mentioned is that you can integrate this to your SIEM solution and populate it with all the security alerts that Microsoft Defender for Cloud has. Now, this is my last slide, and let's talk a little bit briefly about some of the key investments areas for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So let's start with unify your DevOps security management. So before we touch on all of this, most of these things are already published. Let me post it here where you can find out more about what's new within Defender for Cloud. You can see from there, like maybe you can copy paste some of these titles and you can see if they're GA, if they're in public preview, something like that. But yeah, so for unify your DevOps security management, we recently added GitLab. So now you can protect GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps. We're continuing to expand on other connectors. We also expanded regional availability. We also invested a lot in alert enrichment for DevOps security. So this is mainly for like GitHub alerts for malicious activity, infrastructure as code assessment, contextual insights to help developers prioritize critical code fixes. This is available there. Pull request annotations. This is also available. So anytime, for example, that someone is about to deploy a template so that they can deploy servers or storage accounts or whatever within the Azure portal, before they even deploy, they're going to get these pull request annotations that is going to tell them, oh, there's like, you have like a storage account key published right here, or you're not securing it as you should. So yeah, the developer is going to see it just right away before even publishing it. For strengthen and manage your cloud security posture, we have invested in risk prioritization for security recommendation. If you go right now into the Azure portal and click on recommendations, you're going to see like a new dashboard or a new screen that is going to show you by risk prioritization your security alerts. Before, we used to have a different model that you can still access to it, where we used to put controls. So if it was related to network, or if it was related to account permissions, things like that, it was like group and order like that. Now you can also have this view where we prioritize based on risks. So we give you all of the risks that are involved. So maybe it's internet exposed, and it's also like a server that has several vulnerabilities, and it also has maybe access to other things. So that's available. CSP and posture management for GCP. Also there, vulnerability assessment for AWS, GCP for BMSS, ADO and GitHub recommendations already there. Enter permissions management integration. Tomorrow, we're going to have a webinar fully dedicated on this. As I finish this, I can also paste the link or on where you can register to access this webinar that talks about like the integration with Entra permissions management and how it looks like within Defender for Cloud. Agentless secret scanning. We also have secure score and recommendation enhancements. Governance, so notifications, operations on scale, and there's no integration, the ServiceNow integration, which is already, if you go into the Azure portal, you're going to see it right there. I think it's under the environment settings. There's like a section that says ServiceNow. Very simple to enable. Then within the protect your cloud workloads, we have agentless malware scanning for servers. We also have automatic proxy configuration for MDE agents, Defender for Amazon Key Management Service, agentless malware detection for storage. This was released a few months ago. Now is that we're going to increase the file size to 50 gigs. We also have like a lot of things coming there. So for example, on-demand malware scanning, automations, things like that. Defender for DevOps, Defender for API is already available right there within your Azure portal. The integration with M365 for alerts and incidents, and also this multi-tenant onboarding with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. I really recommend that you go and look at all of these release notes and also all of the upcoming changes. Also recommend that you visit our GitHub repo, where we are constantly posting new scripts, new workbooks, new automations that you can take advantage of, and then customize it in another way. Also, you should sign into like all of the webinars that we deliver. If you don't sign in, then they're going to be available on YouTube like the same day or the next day. We provide like the PowerPoint slides that we presented, things like that. We're having like a ton of development. And so, yeah, like the way to keep it up is with the Defender for Cloud release notes. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Litus or to someone here.
Yeah. Thanks, Varana. That was awesome. I do have some questions for you that came up in the chat. The first one is from Chad for Defender Server specifically. Like his question was, would the transition to a single agent also include or support multi-cloud? For example, EC2 instances. Currently, both the Arc and endpoint agents are required.
So there's like two things. So if you only have like Azure Arc, then you're gonna only have like a few capabilities, right? So you're gonna have like agentless scanning, things like that. And when you deploy MDE, then you're gonna have even more capabilities, right? So we're gonna really look in depth into your OS and give you like more constant vulnerability scanning, things like that. So mainly the approach of this seamless deployment and like this easier way to deploy Defender for servers is that before we would have like so many agents, right? And it would be very overwhelming for like a ton of customers to understand like, oh, I need to deploy this agent to get this specific capabilities. And then I also need to deploy this other one to get these other capabilities. And so it was just too many. Then now the majority of the capabilities within Defender for servers are going to come within Defender for endpoint. So this applies to Azure, AWS GCP, and on-prem. But like Lichas was mentioning, we do require Azure Arc to consider these workloads as Azure resources so that we can deploy policies, remediations, do a little bit more of a depth analysis.
Awesome. Thanks. The next question is from Ryan. He was more looking at like what is the recommended method for remediating vulnerabilities within like containers that have been already deployed from a trusted repository, given that the containers are sealed and cannot be edited. I think what Ryan is getting to is as partners probably don't have permissions on some of these resources, and a customer probably has the permissions. So what is probably a path that a partner could take where they can like ask the permissions from customers?
So I think one of the first things that we should all look into if you have Defender CSPM is that you have access to the security graph. And so from there, you can query all of the containers that have a specific vulnerabilities, right? And so from there, you can get like these insights about like what's going on within like your environment. I think that's a priority. I don't know which permissions you need to have read access to the Cloud Security Explorer. I can search right now and post it in the chat. And then from there, I would really recommend working with your customers so that they can have like a framework in place, right, to remediate recommendations. If it means like automating remediations on how to remediate vulnerabilities, things like that. I think that would be like the first approach that I would do, like just look at the Cloud Security Explorer to kind of like understand the panorama of my environment.
Makes sense. Thanks, Fernanda. Along with this, what I had shared earlier was some partners have already taken advantage of these no integration. So they create tickets for their customers where they get notified that, hey, there's a recommendation that we'll need your help for. And when the customer interacts with the ticket, then the request comes back to the partner once it's remediated, and then they can like close out that ticket, basically. So that is basically probably an alternative approach if at all you want to use that. There was a question from Dean around AI security. How does AI security fit into key investment areas? And I believe last month we announced AI security posture management in Defender for Cloud. It's in a public preview, I think now, and it's only for Azure and AWS. It's basically AI security posture management for these two clouds. So if at all you're interested, Dean, you should test out the public preview and see how we can improve that as well. And there was a question around Snow. For Snow integration, this is from Ryan. Will this create alert or ticket storms for recommendations? Basically, I believe there are like a ton of recommendations. Would it automatically create like a ton of tickets? Or is there a way to control that flow of tickets from MDC into ServiceNow?
So it depends on your configuration. So when you go into the ServiceNow configuration, and probably Julie can show a little bit more about it, how you configure it. You can define, for example, that anytime a specific recommendation comes, then a ticket gets triggered. But also, if a recommendation that has a specific resource comes in, or a specific tag, or like a specific filters that you define, then create a ticket, right? So that you don't get like overwhelmed with a ton of security recommendations that are going to start creating tickets. You can also filter by recommendation criticality. So for example, if it's critical, if it's low, if it's medium, you can get to create like a ticket like that. But I would suggest doing like a ton of effort in filtering how you want to create your tickets so that, yeah, you don't just like spam everyone with recommendations and tickets.
Excellent. That was a good question. The last one, this is from Ashfaq. And how do you differentiate between Defender for servers and Defender for endpoint?
So they integrate, right? And like I said, now that we're going into this one agent experience, most of the capabilities are going to rely on MDE. So for example, file integrity monitoring, vulnerability assessment, things like that are going to depend on that. But then, like we explained also at the beginning of this presentation, we also get access to this threat intel that Microsoft Defender for Cloud also uses. And so it's mainly just like coexisting and bringing the capabilities of both solutions. So the Defender for Servers engineering team has created like tailored recommendations, tailored security detections that also go along with Defender for Endpoint. You would benefit from that, and I think that I mentioned in the presentation that as soon as you get Defender for Servers, you also have this access to Defender for Endpoint capabilities. And so you're also going to have access into the Defender for Endpoint dashboard, which is different from Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And then from there, you can explore like other things. But yeah, it's just two tools that coexist.
That makes sense. Thanks, Fernanda. Awesome. That was it. So thank you so much, Fernanda, for the great overview of workload protection and all the insights you were able to share with your experience. So we'll take a short 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for the Defender for Cloud demos that Julio will be doing shortly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks so much, folks, for staying on the call. So next we have Julio from the CXC team as well. He's the principal product manager on the team, and similar to Fernanda, has a lot of experience working with customers as well as partners. So he's going to do us, he's going to share a demo around how the MDC product looks like and how it operates. Off to you, Julio.
Thank you, Lettuce. And thank you, hello, everyone. My name is Julius Sturdy, and I'm also a PM working with Fernanda. Pretty much, we are on the same team. Our team is dedicated for Defender. And then I'll going to do my best to give you the most great experience by demoing or trying to demoing end-to-end Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And you should be able to see my screen.
Yep, we can.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to use different environments for this demo, simply because on some environments I have more permissions in terms of a role. In some environments I only have the minimum read permission. Therefore, to show you a couple things, I needed the higher level permission. So I'm going to switch a little bit left and right. Okay. So we all heard pretty much what is Defender for Cloud. And we all heard the acronym for CNAPP, right? For the Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. So Defender for Cloud, it is indeed a CNAPP solutions that is built to support a multi-cloud environment currently supporting the 3 major cloud providers, Azure, AWS, and GCP. So being a CNAPP solutions, the goal is to start protecting the app, the service, right from the beginning, right from when the application has been developed. And we're going to see the whole life cycle of this protection as a solutions. But out of the box in Azure, Defender for Cloud, it is automatically available at no cost to provide you the bare minimal security insights, the visibility that you can use and explore to determine what level of security your Azure environment it is up to. Now, with that, you can also extend to either AWS or GCP and still leverage the free and not cost security insights evaluation, just like for Azure. But when it comes to Azure, it is automatically configured, whereas for for AWS and GCP, you need to do an extra step. So let me show you what I mean. When you open your Azure portal and you basically explore the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you have under the management sections, the environment settings. This is where most of Defender for Cloud it is configured. This is where you are onboarding your cloud environments, your code repository. This is where you enable, disable, and configure most of the plans and capabilities. This is only an Azure environment that I have over here. However, if you have a multiple subscriptions or multiple tenant, as long as your account is capable to traverse the subscription, and as long as there is a sort of what we call Azure Lighthouse configuration, you'll be able to see those Azure environments. Now, how you onboarding is basically per subscription, because Defender for Cloud, it is a subscription level type of solution or service. From the portal, if you click on your subscription, very quickly you can see that the basic cloud security posture management, it is already enabled by default. There is nothing you really need to do in order to leverage the foundational CSPM capabilities, which was already explained by Litis at the beginning. What is included in those foundational CSPM are basically the security assessment based on the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, the ability to have an inventory, and the ability to also leverage the similar assessment for compliance, and finally, to have the ability to run workflow for automated remediations. Okay, there is nothing that you really need to do here. So out of the box, already you have this concept of being able to see your security posture. Now, in a similar way, you're also gonna get that free sorts of assessment for AWS and GCP once you had the environment as a connection point into the Defender for Cloud. I'm just gonna open one account in AWS and one project in GCP, and you're gonna see it that also as you integrate AWS or GCP into it, you're also gonna get by default the foundational CSPM and not cost. So, and this is AWS. If I go to GCP, I will have a very much the similar experience in terms of what is available. And it's even here, the foundational CSPM, it's enabled by default. So again, if you own just Azure, really not much, there is not much to do on your end at the beginning, other than just go ahead and leverage the information that the environment, that the solution has provided for the environment. If you want to extend that to AWS and GCP, then there is a next step, meaning you have to go under the environment settings. And under the environment settings, you will require to select either AWS or Google Cloud Platform and follow the wizard, basically, to set up the connector. Now, the way the connector is set is much similar in terms of steps. The only difference is the actual configuration method that is used AWS and GCP. For AWS, perhaps we use the CloudFormation template or also Terraform. For cloud, for GCP, we have a Google Scripts and Terraform as well. Okay. But once you actually go through the wizard for the connector, sure enough, you are going to be able to see either the respective AWS account or the GCP project, and then
Julio, can you?
Yeah, I'm going to zoom a little bit. Is 120 good right now?
Yeah, I'm using a Surface laptop, so I'm able to see it from what looks
let me zoom in both of them.
Sure.
I just realized that it is, yes. So once so out of the box again, as long as you have the additional environment connected, added into Defender for Cloud, you're able to see the security posture of such. And then you can very quickly get the overview of the security posture by looking in the main page overview under the security postures. Okay. But you can go into details by clicking in the actual recommendations. Now, while you are clicking the recommendation, it's very simple because the security posture is a portion of the CSPM, or the Cloud Security Posture Management. Therefore, there is a series of assessment that runs based on a set of security control, and those security control are built upon three major standards. One is the CIS, the other is the PCI DSS, and the third is the NIST NA 153. So we took those three major standards, we took the security control where the customer is responsible for the security configuration, and we assemble into the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, which drives the assessment. Under the recommendation, in order to see if you don't have anything, if you don't have the Defender CSPM, which is the premium version of CSPM, you're going to switch into the classic view. And under the classic view, you're going to see the overall score, the overall security score of your environment. If it opens up. Okay. You are going to see the overall security score of all your environment, which is basically the average, in this case, 43% is the average of the security around those environments that you own. Azure, AWS, GCP, and there is also GitLab, and Azure DevOps, which we're going to talk during the demo. Obviously, you have an option to select and filter through it by selecting which one you don't want it, and leave it just the environment that you are intending to view. In this sample, I select Azure. The secure score of Azure is 60%. I can see that within the Azure environment, in this case, there are multiple subscription. I think 4 or 5 subscription. I can very quickly look in the subscription. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you can also select which one you want to see it. And within those 5 Azure subscription, I have a score of 60% out of 80 security recommendation currently active in terms of applicability. I mean, oops, it went up under over 105 applicable security recommendation. Oops, this thing is moving back and forth. Apologize. There you go. It's a settle. 88 active security recommendation, 44 are met, the rest are not, and we have a 19 attack path. I can switch it over AWS and do the same exact exercise. Now, before we move further into this, I just want to go back for a second into the configuration, into the onboarding. So again, out of the box, you have the CSPM, the foundational CSPM. Next step is to enable additional plans, which individually have a billing cost. As far as cloud security posture management, you have the options to enable the premium version, which is called Defender CSPM. Defender CSPM is a plethora of tons, capabilities. I mean, as you can see, the list is pretty long, and we're adding things as months go by as we release new additional capabilities. But in a nutshell, with Defender CSPM, which is the premium version, you're going to leverage for the agentless capability of discovering vulnerabilities and security weaknesses instead of using agent. You're going to be able to see regular vulnerabilities for VMs, vulnerabilities in your containers, all the services are run in the Kubernetes stacks. You're going to be able to see sensitive data. You're going to be able to see if there are any secrets on servers. You're going to be able to see if the sensitive data on the storage account and the database. You're going to be able to see what is the level of public exposure of your resources. Okay, you're going to unlock additional premium capability when it comes to DevSecOps. Okay, when it comes to DevOps security, you're going to be able to leverage governance rule integration with the ServiceNow. You're going to be able to also inventory your AI applications, and for such, you're going to be able to establish the level of security of the level of the security posture of those AI applications. You're also going to unlock the integration with the Copilot in order to use Copilot for embedded experience. So there is a plethora of all kinds of things, including Defender CSPM. All right. Now, how you enable it depends obviously by your level, by your environment architecture. If you have few subscriptions, you probably just go ahead and manage those configurations right from the portal. But most likely you are going to have, probably tens or hundreds subscriptions. Therefore, going to the portal, click on each subscription, it is a bit of a tedious process. I mean, you can do it, but the big issue is keeping all those subscriptions at the same level of standardized set of configuration. So what are the alternatives? The alternatives are several, but pretty much it all goes down to onboarding your environment at scale. So configure Defender for Cloud at scale. You have the option to leverage, if it's in Azure, you have the options to leverage the Azure policies in order to ensure that the configuration are standardized across the subscription within a management group, within a tenant, whichever is your formula to either unify or diversify the configuration across. Azure Policies is a very powerful solutions that allows you to enforce and then configure not only Defender for Cloud, obviously many other, pretty much almost every resource in Azure. So you can leverage Azure Policy to do so. In alternative, you can use, scripting languages or REST APIs. And when you use scripting languages, such as, Azure CLI or or PowerShell, at the end of the day, you are still invoking an API. So you can also invoke that API directly. And in this case, you can basically say that I'm going to onboard at scale using infrastructure as a code. Okay, whichever is the the best solution that fits your needs, you can use one or the other for at scale. Now, if we look into the policy, we already have a large set of policies. They are being defined natively within the Azure Stack in order to do so. As a matter of fact, if you go to definitions, you can very quickly search for Defender or Cloud. And there is already one initiative called Configure Microsoft Defender for Cloud Plans, okay, which internally it contains a group of individual policies that very much like so, you can configure almost all the plans. You can configure Defender CSPM plans, the container plans, storage servers, so on and so forth. Now, there is one plan missing over here currently that is not possible to enable through the policy, and that is Defender for API. The reason behind it is because we are making some changes in Defender's API coming up in the few next months. So currently, the only way to enable Defender API other than the portal, obviously, is through REST API. Okay. Additionally, there are other policies that are that can be used to enable additional set of configuration that are unlocked once your Defender for Cloud plan is enabled. I'm going to give an example. Let's say that you enabling Defender for SQL on a machine. All right. Now, Defender for SQL on a machine is a defined plan that is built for servers, VMs, or regular servers. If there are obviously regular servers on-prem, you need the Azure Arc. The Azure Arc in order to manage. But for those VMs or servers where you actually install the typical SQL instances, so where your intent is to also protect that SQL instances, not so much the server side, because you would use a Defender for server, but for SQL. And in order to do that, there is a requirement currently still in place to have the Azure monitoring agent. Now, for this example, perhaps the plan itself, if you look in the plan itself, like configure Azure Defender for SQL Server machine, these policies at the end of the day will only enable the plan. But because the plan itself requires the additional configuration, and I'm going to show you actually what it looks like in the portal. If you go on the portal, you enable it. Let's say you enable it. You go on you selected the actual, let's say you enable Defender for SQL machine its own. Then there is additional setting for the Azure monitoring agent, which you will enable. And that requires an additional configuration that dictates the fact that you need to select a workspace, either the default workspace generated by Defender for Cloud or your custom workspace, if you like so. And then obviously, if you do through the portal, that configuration is set for all the SQL on VM that are attached into your subscription. But through policies, if you go back to the policy, again, as we saw, there is only, enable the plan or not. So what you would do in this case, you were looking for something like, SQL on machine. Let's see, Defender for SQL. And then you can see there are already some policies. In this case, there is configure SQL VM and the one Arc enable SQL Server, installing the Microsoft Defender for SQL and the AMA using a user custom defined workspace, or just in case like you want to use a default, you can use the other one. Okay. So as you can see, you also find those alternative additional policies. But in a nutshell, 99% of Defender for Cloud, enablement and configuration can be done by a policy or policy set, a policy initiative, okay? Alternatively, you have infrastructure as a code that will leverage, obviously, REST API, scripting language, and so on, okay? So within Defender for Cloud, you have the CSPM group, and then you have the workload protection group, okay? Now, in each one of those, you have, for each one, you have to enable the plan, and if there are additional settings, you have to configure those additional settings. Now, let's go back into where we were talking about. Once you have the basic CSPM, what you get. So here again, with the basic CSPM, you will get the notion of leveraging the assessment across your environment, and therefore we're able to calculate the so-called security score. The security score, it is a value resulting from the calculation of each of the security control within a security domain. As you can see, each of the security domain, like secure enable MFA, secure management ports, remediate vulnerability, apply system updates, so on and so forth, have a maximum score. Okay, that is a maximum value that you can achieve by having all the security control under the domain group healthy. Okay, altogether, obviously, will provide the 100%. So as much as you are close to 100%, better is your security score, and more secure is your environment. Now, when we look those recommendations, okay, the things that you want to look at it are those that are either not fully compliant, obviously, and then you want to look for the resources that are not compliant. Perhaps I don't have a much over here except for one over here. Like in this case, there is management port should be closed in a virtual machine. There is only one virtual machine out of 40 now that is not compliant. But look, let's look at the remediate vulnerability. Under the remediate vulnerability, I have a bunch of security control. They are not fully 100% healthy, right? Like perhaps over here, machine should have a vulnerability finding resolve. I have an 18, not unhealthy, okay? So if you click on that security control, then the experience translates into first a brief description of what is this control, okay? In this case, this control is evaluating the vulnerabilities that are found on EC2 instances. Because I have AWS, an AWS, account added to these to the Defender for Cloud, I can leverage now the scanning capability for vulnerability for those VMs, and I'm seeing that one VM is unhealthy in this case. Okay, what can I do over here? A couple of things. Number one, I can read the description. I can see what are the remediation steps, and I can also basically leverage the list of the unhealthy resources, and in the bottom I can see what are the vulnerability that have been found. Perhaps there are a few. Like one is the update of OpenSSL. The other one is a vulnerability within the server 2022 or the framework. I can further click on the vulnerability, and then I can see what CVEs fall into this security check. Okay, in this case, the Microsoft.NET framework is recommended to be updated, and the actual vulnerability has been discovered by the agentless. It doesn't need to be discovered by agentless. The agentless can be also the agent base, and explain why, meaning like if you have the actual Defender for Server with the MDVM, MDE integrated enablement, then you have the agent base. You can see the criticality of the severity of this vulnerabilities. You can see, obviously the score as represented within the vulnerability itself, the version of the CVSS, and then you see the individual ID of the CVEs, okay? If you click on any of those, then you can additionally see further details about that specific CVE, and you can see all the affected resources, and you can further drill down. From here, you have a few options, okay? Obviously, because in this case, it's a vulnerability, the first thing that you might want to do is to remediate very quickly the vulnerabilities by obviously applying the respective patches or updates to the servers, okay? So how do you do that? Well, obviously, because it's a patch, you are most likely, doing either manually or you already have a process in place that updates those servers, okay? So the very first thing you might gonna do is to assign an owner to the change request. I don't have the proper permissions to do so, but if I go perhaps into my environment where I have a proper permissions, come on. As you can see, I have a proper permissions over here. I can assign an owner. So meaning like, okay, I can actually assign someone to, in order to remediate, so as a change request. This is a manual step. And I will show you also how can you automate this process and how can you actually create that ticket in ServiceNow. Assigning an owner means like you are now delegating the remediation, the change request for this particular recommendation to someone, to a team, okay? The other things I can do is, let's say that I have built a remediation script, okay? Let's just assume that I have, a WSAS or any other, configuration manager or any other software update solution within in my environment, okay? And then I can actually trigger the execution of the patching via code. Well, guess what? I can use a Logic app, which is an Azure serverless type of application. It's basically a workflow of actions. Then you have a built, ahead of time. So premise that you did that, I can now say, oh, I already have a Logic app. So if I did, I can find it and I can trigger. And in this case, Logic app, the sample Logic app could be that maybe a call to your software update management solution that which will say, look, I have a server XYZ, execute the latest update management on this server. And this is just an example. The third alternative that I have here is, now maybe it's not necessarily applicable to the example, but let's say that this is a security control, and then I'm fully aware of the weaknesses and I'm fully aware of such existence, okay? But I have already evaluated the risk, and then I say, look, to me, I am aware of it. I don't want this finding affecting the actual overall score. So I want to exempt this VM. I'm okay that this VM, it is not patched. It doesn't matter what's the reason for it. In my case, it's a lab. So in my case, I don't want to patch because it's a server that I'm using for evaluating those telemetry data. So I can actually create an exemption. When you create an exemption, what's happening behind the scene is nothing more than creating an exemption within the actual policy that drives the security control assessment and creates an exemption inside of the assignment of the policies itself, okay? By creating an exemption on the product, you're just gonna exempt that single machine. Therefore, the evaluation of this single resource, in this case, a machine, will not be considered anymore and therefore will not take effect on the overall security score. The other thing I can do finally is like, okay, I want to disable the rule in general, okay? I can also do that. I can disable the rule, the whole rule and for such, I will not have any longer evaluation of such a recommendation. Now, going back here, okay, what else can I do, okay, here? Because we only have foundational CSPM, then you're pretty much done at this point, meaning like you are aware of some weaknesses, some misconfiguration, some vulnerability, and then you can obviously do the diligence in order to remediate by sign owner or trigger logic app and exempt. In some other recommendation, perhaps there is also a button called fix, which is already pre-populated code that you can run by clicking the fix button, and then automatically will remediate it. Now that fix button, it's not available for all the remediations. All of the security control, it depends, okay? Similar experiences for also for resources in Azure, in AWS and GCP. You also have the fix button over there. There is one small difference. In Azure, the fix button is once you click on it, automatically executes the remediation, the code that is built for remediate the recommendation. On AWS and GCP, it will basically show you the script for the remediation. And therefore, you got to take this script and execute respectively in the Azure command line interface or in the GCP command line interface, okay? The reason is because in Azure, you have an account within the tenant that may have or not the permission to execute the fix. And pretty much you need to be either a contributor or owner of a resource group or the subscription in order to do that. But you don't have the account doesn't have similar permission to do a remote execution of the fix in AWS and GCP. That's why we provide you the scripts that you can do over there. Okay, but other than that, you cannot do anything. However, because in this environment I have a Defender SPM, I also have an option to invoke Copilot. By invoking Copilot, I can do a few things. Perhaps already, I don't know. This is what already done. So perhaps I have options to asking questions. So I already asked a couple of questions to Copilot, like summarize the recommendation, help me remediate these recommendations. And he tells you pretty much how to do that. Or I can say, delegate this recommendation to resource owner. So if you do that, the Copilot will actually, work for you in order to generate the, the message, the email that you can send to the actual owner of this resource. So you can just click it on it, and then it will be done. So you don't have to do anything manually, or things such as just give me it's not in this example, but let's say that you want to let's say that the recommendation has a script. It can be fixed by an easy script. It will generate a script for you, a PowerShell nowadays, and you can run it. So the integration, the Copilot, is a plugin that gives you that embedded experience, and then it's available because we have a Defender for CSPM. So now, because I'm talking about Defender CSPM, I want to move into that because, again, by having the foundational CSPM, you have this notion of a secure score calculated upon the individual security control and their maximum value. But within those security control, the problem, the security problem as a siloed problem, meaning like, okay, I know that machine is vulnerable, but I'm not sure exactly how critical it is, this vulnerability. I'm not sure how critical is the actual resource that is vulnerable to that machine. Let me give an example. I might have 3 servers, okay? All 3 servers have same exactly vulnerability. Let's call for the exact, CVE 001, just for the sake of the demo. Okay, all three servers has a CVE 001. Guess what? I know that I have three servers with this vulnerability, high critical risk. I need to fix it, but I don't know which one should have a priority, because I don't know which one is more critical than the other. I may have one server that is in production, another server that is in production, but it's very much like a low-end server, or a third server that is in a lab. Guess what? The one in the lab will have the latest, the lowest priority, but you don't know how to evaluate that unless you actually know the environment, you know those machines, you know what they're doing, you know basically the resources. So with the regular CSPM, the secure score, you're not much aware of such. So what do? By having the Defender CSPM, now you're going to evaluate those single recommendations into a contextualized security posture. And that will give you basically the risk information about the resource. The risk prioritization, as we call, it is by default the main view when you go under the, if you go back into the main portal of Defender for Cloud and go in the recommendation, it's the default view of the recommendations, okay? And you have to actually switch to the classic view for the security score, okay? So here, you can see more details, but the main thing that you need, that is very important, is now it's not about the single secure recommendation, which internally then has all the resources under which the recommendation, the security control is unhealthy. But now you have resources listed individually for each of the security control, and each of those resources may have a similar or not similar risk level. Okay, it just, we have something over here, they're always the same level, but technically you can have some of those that have a less critical risk, less risk level than the others, okay? Now, how we calculate this risk level is based on risk factor. The risk factor is a component of the contextualization of the security idea, which is basically unlocked when you enable Defender CSPM. When you enable Defender CSPM, everything that we collect in terms of security security telemetry is then stored into a graph schema database, and every information, every piece of data for each resources becomes a node of a graph, which and then it has adjacent connection points. Those adjacent connection points are going to be evaluated as correlation points, and therefore the security is correlated multiple points, multiple factor, and define different things such as risk factor, attack path, so on and so forth. Okay, so here we have, we have actually we expose the risk factor. Okay, in this case, perhaps there is a lateral movement, and lateral movement with sensitive data, meaning it's like in this case, because the MFA should be enabled on the user account. Okay, and that can basically lead into, if a breach, the user account is breached, into lateral movement into some resource with sensitive data, simply because we actually found through the discovery of sensitive data, that some of the resources within your environment contain sensitive data. Okay, this is exposure to internet, also sensitive data, so on and so forth. But this is because it contains a secret, some credentials and stuff like that. Now, the other thing to add over here, which I'm going to go show you very quickly, is that, okay, so now your question is, okay, those are the risk factor Microsoft has built, developed, and defined. All right, but okay, but what about if a server, back on my example, a server that is in production is more valuable for me than the other server which is in production, and more valuable than the server is in that? How do I define that? Obviously, we don't know it as a Microsoft, as a product, we don't know it. So at that point, your you are able to set something that we call the resource criticality. Okay, when you click on the resource criticality, you're going to be sent to the Defender XDR portal, and then under the Defender CX portal, let me see if it will bring me. Under the Defender XDR portal, you can then create classification rules, okay? Under those classification rules, you can then you can create custom classification rule. You can define value you can define the value of a resource or resources according to your business risk evaluations. In my case, I created basically two very simple ones. One is for a VM, other one is it's called classified VM. Okay. Once you do that, this classification, obviously it's a rule set, will discover the resources that are basically applied to the rule, and then under the inventory, we'll show those resources. Well, I should show the resources over here. I don't see why not, but it will show these resources as critical, and we'll have an icon of like a crown on it, which identifies a critical. Now, once you have identified the critical, criticality on the resource, what's happening is the evaluation of the risk factor will also be taking consideration your own level of criticality. And therefore, if this is more critical than this other server, because it's critical, instead of be high, will be obviously critical, okay? Now, this is very important because having the visibility into the criticality, the risk criticality of the resources, additionally, knowing how many attack path the actual resource is a member of it, will give you more information to evaluate which resources has higher priority in order to remediate. Now, talking about remediate, in this view, we also have a status. That status is the status of the remediation, meaning like this resources now, on the critical level for storage account as a public access, it should be disallowed, has been, and then it's also part of an attack path, is assigned to this person, Dilek, okay, at the woodgrove.ms. So this person is the owner and has been assigned to remediate it. And looks like the assignment, it worked, but he hasn't done the job and it's overdue. So right here, you also see that the person you're assigned to hasn't done his job, okay? Or this other one is still in time to fix it, okay? How do you do that? Well, obviously one way is to do manually, but who wants to do the manual job to go each one of those recommendations and assign order manually? You want to automate the process. In order to automate the process, it's very easy. With the Defender CSPM, you have the notions of being able to create what we call governance rule and also integrate with the ServiceNow. The integration of ServiceNow is very simple. Premise that you have your ServiceNow ITSM module, you first need to integrate that environment. I don't have any ServiceNow to show you here, but in a nutshell, you're gonna just basically create that integration. That integration requires obviously the name, the scope of this integration. Do you want to have a ServiceNow backend integrated with a single subscription? You want to integrate with the WS. You want to integrate with the management group. Therefore, all the subscription that the management group. It's up to you over here. Okay, or you can do something like management group XYZ by excluding subscription ABC. Okay, you're gonna include the instance URL for the ServiceNow, the username that has all the credential that is allowed to access ServiceNow, the password or credential, and the client ID and the client secret for access ServiceNow. Once you do that, okay, the next thing I don't have here. Let me see if I can do over here for a second. I don't think there is one over here either. Sorry. Anyway, once you do that, then you have that integration. Premise that you have integration, then you can create those change requests, those tickets, either manually or, as I say, you can also leverage an automated process. That automated process is driven by the governance rule. Governance rule is still part of Defender CSPM. In here, you're going to create a rule, okay, where you're going to say, look, CVE updates, CVE remediation. Let's call it like that, okay? And the scope is going to be my subscription. And then I want to have a priority of 1 in this case. Like leave a subscription if you want to, whatever. And then you go to conditions. Now, here you have options. So you want to execute this rule every time there is a recommendation by severity or by specific type of recommendation. Because I call the CV remediation implies that I want to try to do vulnerability management update, right? So I'm going to do specific recommendation, and then I'm looking for vulnerability. Why doesn't find anything? So there you go. Machine should have vulnerability find the result. Okay. So now, every time there is a new recommendation, every time this machine should have vulnerability find the result has a new unhealthy resource, will automatically trigger this rule. And then what we do, we'll automatically assign the remediation to an owner. And the owner can be either by resource tag or by email address. Okay. If it's a resource tag, you have to select probably the owner tag. And then if it's obviously by email, you put the email. The other thing you can do is basically do like remediation by time frame. So you say like, okay, I give 14 days to, for the owner to fix it. Okay. And then I also want to apply a grace period. You don't have to do that, but by applying the grace period, you're going to basically allow during the 14 days, you're going to basically exempt the unhealthy resource from the overall score. Okay. And then you can say like notify when, obviously this is overdue, so on and so forth. You can create it. The additional thing that you can do is, I don't have them over here, but you can, because I don't have the ServiceNow, I can also say, instead of assign the resource only, I want to generate the ServiceNow change request using the connector that I have. So what's happening is, if I created this rule, every time that I have an unhealthy resource within that specific condition, in this case, the vulnerability assessment, a ticket will be open into ServiceNow. And then in ServiceNow, you have the proper queue process to enable the execution of the changes. Okay. Now, so it's important to understand that you now have a visibility into those misconfiguration. You have visibility into the priority, the risk priority by leveraging the risk level. You can control the risk level by also having additional information for the resource as that resource is more valuable to you. And then you can create now besides manually create the actual ticket, you can automatically generate the ticket not only within the within the Defender for Cloud, but also into ServiceNow. Okay. One more thing that is important to know in this page is data sensitivity. As part of Defender SSPN and as part of the storage accounts plan, you have the ability to agentlessly discover sensitive data. They are stored within the storage account, perhaps. And also we go in the same level for database, okay? Now, this, in order to work, you have to configure it pretty much. I mean, there is a little bit of configuration because out of the box, you're gonna get about over 100 type of data types. They are considered sensitive data. You have financial, PII, credential, or others data types. They're available. And then the first three categories, finance, PII, and credential, are already selected for you. Within those categories, you have a multiple data types. It's not only the US, but it's pretty much can be worldwide data types. So here, maybe you want to further, configure the data types for your own environment. Now, you have to be aware here that this configuration, it's set at the tenant level. So let's say that you are a customer that is dispersed geographically. You have one single tenant that have a subscription in Europe, subscription in US, subscription in Asia, perhaps, okay? So at this point, you need to consider data types for all those three geographical areas, okay? But if let's say that you are only in US, then guess what? Maybe you don't need it. The ABR routing number, I'm sorry, you don't need the UA debit card number, you need the credit card number only. I'm just saying, so here you do need a little bit of configuration. It's not like, automatically will give you, we'll give you the information, but it's not like automatically will apply to your needs. So it has to be done some configuration if you want to tailor it to your environment precisely. Additionally to the actual data types, which are basically, the evaluation of a string within a document, we allow you to also discover sensitive document, not because you actually want to try to discover a text within the document, okay? Like, oh, let me see if there is a credit card number in there. No, that's done by this section. Let's say I have a document that has nothing to do with any type of data type, but the document itself, even if it's 3 lines, just one paragraph, it's highly confidential. Guess what? If I label the document with the high confidential and I set it this level of sensitivity here, which will, you need to do manually by applying the actual label, configure the labels and apply the labels through policies, then we are going to evaluate based on this labeling. And then therefore, if you have a document that none of the data types are present, but the document is confidential, we're going to highlight as well. All those informations about data sensitivity, secret, exposure to internet, vulnerability, so on and so forth, are then organized and consumed within this database that I explained to you, called, which is the Azure Cloud Security Database, and then will provide you visibility into attack path, okay? In this environment, I have tons of attack path, 250 attack path, okay? The attack path are a proactive visibility into what can happen within the actual configuration, the current configuration. So it's just basic assumptions, but not, the theoretical assumption, but based on factors, okay? And we tell you, like, look, some servers, in this case, this EC2 instance, because it's exposed to the internet and because contains vulnerabilities such as remote code execution, and also has permission to read other resources, in this case, a KMS, which a key vault sort of like, we expose that in attack path. Now, is the attack took place already? No. But we know that there is a possibility that this can happen, meaning like if these instances is breached, it can be used to gather some sort of like keys within the AWS KMS, which who knows, maybe allows the bad actor to get hold of whatever the key will take it. The key could take it to a storage account, perhaps with the sensitive data, to a database or whatever, allow more lateral movement. We are currently supporting attack path across pretty much almost all the resources, including the AI component. As a matter of fact, I should be able to see some OpenAI here as well. And I should be able to see, yes, OpenAI. Now, how do I leverage this information? Well, as I say, it's conceptually, it's a proactive information. But with the Defender CSPM right now, automatically, you are able to inventory generally AI applications, and then evaluate the weaknesses, the security level of those AI. Okay, this is still on the posture side. And because we evaluate that in the context of the other resources within your environment, and believe me, it's not about only Azure. Our evaluation crosses the three clouds. So you can easily have an attack path that could start in Azure and then cross the attack will cross AWS and even in GCP. So it's all end-to-end contextualizations, okay? And then here in this case, we see like a machine that is high vulnerable that can basically lateral move in those OpenAI, okay? Now, we contextualize everything from code to the cloud. When I say code to the cloud, means like from the moment that you have developed that application, we are going to pour the application in security. How we do that? Automatically, out of the box, you have integration for DevSecOps, DevOps security. If you want to have the premium version, you have to obviously have the Defender CSPM. But automatically, you have some level of DevOps security. But in order to unlock those capabilities, you obviously need to add the code repository that you are using to store the code. So after you add in your cloud environment, if you have any, the next step is to add your code repository. Let's say that you're using GitHub, or let's say you use Azure DevOps or GitLab. You can add those environments accordingly. As a matter of fact, here I have some GitHub repository, some Azure DevOps, and some GitLabs. Once you have added those environments, automatically you are going to monitor the security within the code itself, and as this code gets deployed into the cloud, okay? How do you see the information? So the informations are exposed, number one, to the recommendations. Okay, if I have any. Let's see if I have any over here. Okay, so I have some that are affecting GitLab, but I can also do this. Maybe I want to see only GitHub. So I have a bunch of recommendations. They are affecting GitHub, okay? Again, I can also change the environment and for the other ones, but just for the sake of GitLab right now. Over here, it says a GitHub repository should have a dependency vulnerability scanning finding and resolve. So it means like there are some vulnerability within the code. And you can do just like the others. You can click it on it, and you can see the the actual the actual details about the the specific recommendation and what is exactly that you have to do it. You can also take an action. You can look in the findings, and when you look in the findings, you can see what are those vulnerabilities. Perhaps there are a bunch of language chain. It's probably Python over here. So you have a bunch of Python vulnerability within those packages. Okay. You can look also if they are, okay, if those vulnerabilities and the resources are also what do you call, generating a possible attack vector. If they do, you would have seen an attack path, all the attack path, they are basically where this vulnerability will be a contributor to the chain of the attack. Okay, but here it's just like, looks like it's just basically vulnerability with the actual code, and then nothing in production has been like problem in production has been fixed. So therefore, there is nothing that we can find as an attack vector. But you can actually see over here. Also, you have the notion of looking to the Copilot, and then in the Copilot you can do a couple of things. You can like also you can you can ask Copilot, listen, can you generate a pull request annotations automatically, so that pull request annotation will generate as a work item on the GitHub, on the GitHub, so that way the developer knows that there are some vulnerabilities they are going to be needed to be fixed. Or again, you can do that by assigning an order and everything like that. That's one way to do it. So the first way to do it is evaluating the actual security exposure of the code itself through the recommendations. And here you have the risk level, so on and so forth. Okay. The other way to do it is obviously going through the DevOps security. With DevOps security, have a broader vision of all your environment. Okay. Here you have basically, the overview of how many security findings are found and impact your environment. You have it overall as as dashboard look like, but you can look individually for each of the repository. Okay. And as you can see, also you have all the findings exposed with the colors. That means, much needs to be fixed. And here you can further you can further look into the details if you want to it. Okay. You can actually look into that. Okay. Now, with DevOps, you have multiple things. You can also leverage the dynamic or the static test for the security test on the code. You can obviously evaluate the vulnerability within many of the open source packages. You can evaluate the security level of your templates, such as a Terraform, obviously ARM, Bicep, so on and so forth. You can do through the CI/CD pipeline. You can make sure that you can evaluate the security during the pipeline, and you can block it so it doesn't reach out, doesn't get deployed just in case. And also we are coming up with the fact that you can also evaluate your containers, okay, which is the next steps, meaning like, okay, what about if I'm building a container image? Well, I want to make sure that the actual image itself, from the moment that I build the code for that image, it's fully aligned with all the security best practices. And then if I miss something, then I want to further evaluate that image within the container registry first, and then later in the runtime. Okay. So how do I do that? I will show how to do that. But before we move into that, I want to also take a chance to show you how, once you enable the data sensitivity, that all the information about the sensitivity data that has been found is also showed as a dashboard under this data security. Under this dashboard, you can see the overall, status of your environment in terms of what has been found into your environment as sensitive data. Okay, so it will, this is a nice one quick glance view that can be used by, the main admins or the XOs to see, okay, let me check, if my environment has sensitive data overall, and then what is being funded. Okay, and the nice thing is from here you can actually go through, the actual. Well, I'm going to explain what's the alert. You can actually detail. Those are the security alerts, okay, which is a little bit different. But before I explain the security alerts, I can still also like the attack path, expose the internet. So through here, you basically have access through the various insights that pertains to data security. Now, when I click over here, I show the alerts, and let me explain a little bit better. So the data sensitivity part, okay, is a component. It's a feature that is available for 2 planes. One is the Defender CSPM, and it's under the settings, data sensitivity, you have to turn it on, or it's part of the storage account. Okay, if you click on the storage account over here, I don't have a, well, this is actually on the, it's the, what do you call, the legacy plan. So it's not available over here. Let me show you. Oh, maybe over here. Actually, I can show you mine very quickly. On the storage account, you can see that it's data sensitivity as well. Now, the component itself is the same. The engine that is used to scan is the same. The only difference is the Defender CSPM will leverage the data that is being found and consumed in the context of the security. Whereas the one, if enabled in the storage account, the information will be leveraged to generate the alerts. Actually, that's why when I say like over here, when I click on the alerts, it took you over the actual alerts. So basically, it will talking over the alerts. So in some of the subscription under here, there is a plan enabled, and therefore there are alerts generated for under the context of the security. Okay. Now, what I was going to. Okay. So again, when we're looking to protect the application, we saw that, you know, you started by evaluating the context of the security overall, end to end, from the beginning when we start developing the code of the application until you bring into the cloud, and then into cloud into a runtime state. When it's in runtime states, that's when your workload protections comes in place. Okay, because at that point, you know, not only you need to monitor it in terms of security posture, but you also want to make sure that in real time you protect the workloads. Okay, so when it comes to protecting workload, just like Fernanda mentioned earlier, we support all kinds of resources: the servers, the application services, database, storage, containers, Key Vault, resource manager, and APIs. When it comes to the other clouds, Azure and AWS and GCP, we have a little bit limit version of those. Perhaps right now we have databases, servers, containers, and we are coming up with also some S3 buckets and stuff like that. Okay, but if you look in Azure, you pretty much have now, okay, I have an application, I'll monitor the security of this application with my DevSecOps. I now upload this application in app services. I'm in the runtime. What I do, I make sure that I enable the app services, and with such, I'm going to basically monitor in real time the application and protect it. So make sure that I'm going to block attempts of attacks. Okay, same thing. The application uses databases. Can be open source database. It can be Microsoft SQL database. We serve all. We support SQL database, open source, and CosmoDB. CosmoDB only limited for the SQL API. But then we pretty much can support almost all stack. Therefore, now you're supporting where the application, the code, where the application is running, the data is stored in a regular storage account. We support that as well. Does the data has sensitive data? We see it, and we also protect the content from attempts of attack, and we block it. Okay. If it comes down to containers, what are we able to do? Guess what? Now you enable the Defender for containers. At that point, you have two things. One is the ability to monitor the vulnerability within the actual container when it's at rest in the registry. And after that, you can monitor the same vulnerabilities at the runtime when it's in the Kubernetes in this case. But not only that, we're able to protect those containers at the runtime, okay? And we are coming up also with the ability to scan the actual node for vulnerabilities, okay? Now, does the application use some secrets in order to access various resources such as database and storage? You're probably going to store everything into a key vault, okay, in this case, where guess what? We also allow to protect the key vault. And this is not posturally, it's actually protecting the workload, protecting the key vault against attacks, and then safeguarding the content of that key vault, okay? If the application has an API and then is registered within the API, okay, then you are able to enable the plan for the API, and therefore we are going to monitor the application and protect the application against the top 10 OWASP. If the API also use sensitive data or exposes secrets and stuff like that, we're able to also determine such condition and show you those information. So as you can see, your service, which at the end of the day is still a code application, is fully saved into our solutions from the beginning, right from the moment that you write the first line of the code. Now, we have some limits. Obviously, right now it's only GitLab. It's only GitHub, ADO, Azure DevOps, and GitLab. We are planning to expand that, obviously, but it's a little by little, all right? But already those are the three major repositories out there, right? Public, pretty much. I know there are some other repository like JFrog has its own, so on and so forth. There are different types of CI/CD, solutions. Not only the one built within the ADO or GitLab. You have like Jenkins and so on. They have other solutions, but we're coming up with that support pretty soon. But as you can see, the life cycle of this application, the life cycle of this service is protected end to end, and then is monitored for security best practice end to end. It's protected and monitored, but also allows you a way to very easily remediate through either manual remediation or through something called workflow automation. When I say workflow automation, I mean it's a rule, a condition that you can create in order to automatically remediate a security condition, okay? Let's say that I have a server that is exposed to the internet and it gets tons of alerts based on password spray, okay? Perhaps I have a server here. If I look under security alerts, I have a server that is exposed to the internet, and automatically I got tons of attempt to breach through it by password spray or brute force. Guess what? Okay, if I want to remediate this automatically, okay, I could build a workflow automation, which will basically leverage a condition by which the alert, in this case, security alert, you're gonna say like alert contains, something like, on whatever was the alert description contains that, and automatically I can say, look, when you see a server with, when you see alerts on this type, please shut down the any open ports on the server, something like that, or otherwise remove that public IP from that server. It's simply things like that. I'm just saying, right? But this is a workflow automation. Now, the workflow automation is just the engine that wraps around the action. So it's just the condition. What drives the action is the logic app. So in order to do something, upon the condition, you got to build a logic app, which is now, obviously it's now Microsoft Defender for Cloud. It's Microsoft Azure logic app. So you build a logic app, and then you assign to this workflow automation. And then when that condition is evaluated and that is true, the logic app will be executed and then the remediation will be applied automatically. Okay. Now the same logic app can also be triggered manually, as I showed you early in the recommendation. You have the options to go ahead and trigger manually. Okay. And I'm not sure exactly how much time I have longer here. So maybe someone can give me some time here.
You still have 20 minutes, Julio.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, good. Okay. So, let's look into here. Let's go.
I'm sorry, you have 13 minutes, Julio.
Half hour.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
1, 3, 13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay, it's enough. It's enough, 13 minutes. Okay. So far we have, I mean, again, demoing the entire Defender for Cloud, it is, it's a big job to do in an hour, even 90 minutes, but we try to do the possible. But so far, what we have demoed is within the actual portal of the Defender for Cloud and within, Azure itself, all right? One thing we miss is, it's regulatory compliance, actually. The regulatory compliance, it's, the ability to assess your environments, Azure, AWS, or GCP, according to the standard that fits your industry, that fits you. When I say that fits you, it can be a regular public standard, or it can be something that you want to assess customly. And you are ready, you're able to create that, the custom, you can create a custom, what do you call it? Assessment. You click on the manage assessment, and then through here you select it, and then you go security policies, and then you can look into the individual policies. They are now available, which are the engine behind the assessment. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. You can assign at the subscription level. If you manage, you can assign a subscription level. You can assign at the what do you call at the you can assign at the tenant level, a management group, so on and so forth. Okay, but let's say that you want to create your own version of assessment. Okay, you can do so by easily creating the custom recommendations. Okay, so the assessment itself is a combination of recommendation. This is just something that we put together in terms of number of recommendation. It creates an assessment. Okay, the default until now has been Azure policies. So in Azure, it's built on Azure policies. But when we added the notion of supporting AWS and GCP, we decided, says, look, obviously Azure policy is not working on those environments, right? So we will need to build something for AWS, something for GCP. It's going to be way too much to manage it, to update all the time. So we came up with that notion of we needed one simple solution for all of it. The solution was KQL. Okay, KQL is the coastal query language. For those that are using Azure Monitor with the log analytics or Sentinel, pretty much are familiar, or even like the ADE, which is the Azure Data Explorer. Okay, they're familiar with the KQL. So it's very common language that a lot of people use. So let's do that. And what we did, we first released the K12 version of recommendation for AWS and GCP, and now we release as well for Azure. So when we build those recommendation custom, you can create first your custom recommendation. And when you create a custom recommendation, you now build a query, a K12 query. Okay, now before it was a policy. So you build that K12 query, which is something like, okay, tell me, all those servers that are not where there is vulnerabilities and therefore is unhealthy. So if I have a server that has a minimum one vulnerability, it's unhealthy, and then give me the server name, something like that, right? So you create the recommendation. Once you create those recommendations, the recommendation will be listed under the recommendation. Then you can create your standard. When you click your standard, you give it a name, perhaps standard 1, and then you go to recommendation. You select all your recommendation that you have available, including the one that you built customly, and you assemble your standard. You follow the wizard, you apply, and bingo, then you're done. So you have your custom set. It doesn't need to be an extensive set of policies or recommendations. It can be even 2 or 3 more. If it's just one, it can be, but it doesn't really make sense. But you build that. So once you have that, then the next thing is going to happen is that all those standards are going to be evaluated on a daily basis, and then are going to generate, as according to where you have selected, the compliance level. So the unhealthy, compliant, non-compliant level of each of those security control within the security domain. Okay. Out of the box, we support around, I don't remember, 30 or 50, something like that, of general standards, but you can expand as you need it. We are working very hard to try to update those standards as quickly as possible. We can do much better job, I guess, because the standards are evaluated and updated more frequently, and then we have to work harder to generate very quickly the latest update version. But most likely, in reality, is not every company is very quickly updating their standard to the new level. Okay. Also, they take a few months, a year, in order to move from a previous version to a new version, most likely. But this is in terms of a compliance. Now, so when it comes down to alerts, when it comes down into the posture management, when it comes to all those informations, okay, everything is obviously available through the actual portal, okay? But what about if now the informations are, how do you say, are uploaded or synchronized within a more unified portal, okay? I mean, any company, we have a group, a team that is more in charge of the security part of the environment. So you have the SOC team that uses SIEM. Then you have the team that is managing incident. Team is managing maybe the protection of applications or maybe identity, okay? What about all those things, okay? What about if I can now take this, all the security insights that I have on the cloud side, so Azure, AWS, and GCP, and then expose those informations in more of a wider context where I can now have a more visibility instead of me maybe jumping on other portal or me not even have enough permission to go to the portal and then asking someone else. Well, that's what we have been doing right now. So we take all these informations right now, little by little, and we are slowly migrating, or I say migrating, we slowly also synchronize the information within the Microsoft Defender portal, also known as Microsoft Defender XDR now, okay? Before it was the Microsoft Defender or the M365 Defender, whatever you want to call now, it's called Microsoft Defender XDR, okay? So with that context, actually this one, okay? So when you go inside of your Microsoft Defender XDR portal, now you have visibility in much of the information that is being generated by Defender for Cloud. To start, you have the informations about the incident, okay? That's probably one of the things that you want to deal with at the beginning. You can do that in alerts over here, very good, but you only see the alerts as it pertains to the single environment within the your subscriptions, okay? But what about if I want to see the alerts in the context of other alerts coming from regular clients, not servers? What about if I want to see those alerts for the identities or the data evaluated by evaluated by application security, all those things, all right? Then we have them over here. So now if you look, you go into the Microsoft Defender XDR portal, all the alerts, even the one from Sentinel, are aggregated inside this portal, okay? So you have a number one, the alert as an event, okay? So if you go here, there's unusual number of failed sign-in attempts it's a single event that is being triggered and takes the form of an alert. But the same machines have a multiple. As a matter of fact, there are 36 of those events, 36 of those alerts. So now the same alerts are here, okay? And they are also grouped together with all kinds of other, information from Azure Active Directory, information from the Office protection, so on and so forth, including the one from actually the the one from Defender for Cloud. You can actually customize a column and search for Defender for Cloud. You have the one from Sentinel. It should be Defender for Cloud 2 somewhere over here. Hey, Defender for Cloud over here. Oh, this is Cloud App. But it should be some for Defender for Cloud as well. But in a nutshell, you see all those under here, okay? Now, oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for this thing in a different, this belongs to here. So the alert, so this is the wood group. Okay, so this is the wood group, this is the wood group, sorry. I thought that this was for my own lab. Now, those events are also aggregated in a form of incident. So the single alert, the single incident, the single event itself is aggregated and grouped together in a form of incident. And the incident can have the single event, the single alerts, or multiple ones, okay? As a matter of fact, over here you have things such as multi-stage incident, and then you see things from different other alerts. What I'm trying to say is now, by taking the information from Defender for Cloud and aggregating such information from the cloud environment into the overall XDR solution, you now have visibility as a contextualized event, not only as a single event, okay? The other thing is, okay, show me all the attack path that you find it, includes one from the cloud. And then here he goes. You go like, Azure with the VM, with the RC vulnerability, allow lateral move on the keyboard. And you have those attack paths that are generated by our product now available inside of the XDR. Now the attack path can be the single attack path, meaning like this is only a single A to B movement, or there can be a multiple of those in aggregated way, and that takes a form of a map, where as you can see, now you have a multiple, you have one map right now, okay, and you can actually expand those. In this case, I don't have a much yet, but you could expand a little bit more over here. So you see that we are, we are now exposed this information in through a single pane of view. Once the informations are here, besides being obviously evaluated through the portal, are available as data. And as data, now you can leverage into your advanced hunting. Okay, so that same information now can be correlated within your KQL query in order to evaluate some hypothesis or some search for some evidence like IOCs, okay, or some indication of attack, IOAs. So it says, look, based on some of those alerts, maybe something has been compromised. Let me see if there are any correlated informations around, indication of attack. So you can do some research through here, and then obviously with the KQL, you can very easily do so. The other thing that we're able to do now with our data going to be, being integrated with here with advanced hunting, that I want to create a query that generates a results of based on my condition, and I want to turn that results into an alert. Okay, so you can now also leverage the data to try and create a custom alerts. Okay, which is even going farther for what you're able to do within the Defender for Cloud, because Defender for Cloud, most of the alerts, all the alerts actually are being generated automatically based on the alerts predefined within the plan itself. Okay, there is no way that you can generate your own custom alerts of all the alerts are basically built within the plan itself. Okay, the other thing you can do a risk analysis with the Cloud Security Explorer and generate like a custom report, but that's not an alert. It's just basically something that you are analyzing. But on the other hand, here on the event sounding right now, you can do that. And it's just like, for those that are familiar with the SIEM, right? It's the same concept. I have a bunch of data put together, create a query, and then boom, I created that alert / I can do also an incident if I want to. But that's the gist of it. So as you can see, now slowly we're taking the data from Defender for Cloud, specifically the alerts, data from Posture, and as we slowly migrated into this, what we call Security Compliance Center, we're providing a single pane of view for your security, which is not only cloud-based, but only also, cloud-based IaaS and PaaS, but also cloud-based SaaS, because when we look into, XDR, you also have the notion of protecting the identity behind it, the Entra, using Entra ID, or the notion of protecting your Office application suite. It's called Microsoft Defender for Office, right? Or the CASB solution with the Microsoft for Cloud Apps, those kind of stuff, right?
You're almost at time. You're basically
okay.
At time.
I can just basically close here the demo, and then if there are any questions, I can answer the questions now.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of questions actually, but Fernanda did an amazing job of answering them all extremely detailed. So I think we are good with questions. So thanks again, Julio, for the great demo. You were so detailed and with so many details. That was so great. So we'll take a short break now. And during this break, Paulette will share the feedback survey. So please make sure you complete the survey, and we'd love to hear from you on the content shared today so far and what you like to see in the future. And thanks again for staying on the call and attending session. So we'll come back shortly with a final session on best practices, pricing, and some success stories with Or and Sean. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks again, Julio. Awesome. We are back. Thanks so much, folks, for staying on. And again, please complete the survey that's on the chat as well as the QR code that Paulette shared. We really like to hear your feedback to see how we can improve. So on to next session, we have Or and Sean covering best practices, who are from our global black belt team. We have a lot of experience positioning MDC, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, in front of customers. So off to you, Or and Sean.
Cool, fantastic. So hello, everyone. My name is Or Schwartz. Sean, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, Sean Stark. I'm a principal technical specialist. I guess Or and I work together. We mostly handle our ISV customers in a vertical in Microsoft we call SDP, or Software and Digital Native Platforms.
Yeah, so I'm a global black belt. We have different titles, but at the end of the day, me and Sean, we work in our MCAPS group, which is essentially our sales and partnerships group, and we're in the field, we're customer facing. We're verticalized within, just a little bit of background in terms of how we're structured from a sales perspective. Within Microsoft, within our selling group, we have different verticals. Me and Sean are in what the vertical called Software and Digital Platforms, as Sean mentioned. And it's nationwide, it's not a specific region. And we have primarily a lot of technology companies and ISVs, as Sean alluded to. And that's pretty much the nature of the organization we work with. It's about 380 accounts. We mainly stay focused on those accounts and don't really stretch out into other verticals. So we have a lot of experience with technology companies. And what we want to take you through today are a couple pieces. We want to share with you our methodologies for selling. We have an internal methodology that we follow that we'll present in just a second that leads us through the pre-sales motions. Then we want to focus on what we go through in terms of a POC process with prospective customers that we handle. From a process perspective and from a product perspective, we want to share with you guys also a few competitive pieces where we view ourselves as having a comparative advantage over different competitors in the space that may do the same thing that we do. And finally, we want to share some pricing aspects, and then essentially an anonymous scenario of a customer that we recently had a win with in terms of deployment. And then at the end, we'll share pieces where we see us working together from a partnership perspective with the various partners in the ecosystem. So on to this next slide here. Internally, we have a sales methodology that the acronym is MSEM. And the idea with this, it's a customer engagement methodology. And we have I put in a little graphic down here at the bottom that shows the different stages. And me and Sean in our role are really focusing on the first 3 stages. You can see them listed up top here: listen and consult, inspire and design, and then empower and achieve. But we spend a lot of time really on the first stage in terms of when we are first engaging a customer, what specific questions and insights do we want to get from the customer in our first engagement, our first real discussion that we have one-on-one. And in that discussion, we're asking obviously questions which give us insight into the customer's infrastructure, their situation, requirements, priorities. It's very typical to a normal sales process, but we're really asking questions that are pointed for us to understand then what we would be able to offer from a deployment perspective and a security perspective. So you can see in this number 1 piece, we're trying to find out what's essentially the anatomy from a cloud perspective, or even an on-premise, or just a workload perspective in general that the customer has. Are they all in Azure? Are they all in a specific cloud? Are they distributed across multiple clouds? Do they have a combination of cloud and on-premise, right? What are they trying to do in terms of a security strategy, whether it's a short-term goal or long-term goal, 1 year, 5 years, and then how do we fit into that as a component? It's really important for us to understand these challenges, objectives, because we want to understand if then we can communicate to them that we can actually help them reach these objectives, or be upfront and say, hey, look, this is something that we can't really help with. So there's no expectation in that sense. I kind of veered into the second piece where, based off what their responses from a customer perspective, we're then putting together some sort of plan, some sort of designing or architecting some sort of plan. So in this case, we obviously aim for CNAPP. We start off, really, we lead with CSPM, right? Our ability to cover multi-cloud. You've seen it in the past few hours in terms of our technical capabilities. And then we also try to leverage what kind of free aspects that we have, right? So Julio in his previous session covered foundational CSPM, which is essentially our free version of CSPM that comes built in the product. It's a really good landing zone with customers to start off with that. It gives insight. Obviously, the page CSPM version has added capabilities, but even if we can start off with that free version and train the customer in that sense, we can get them really introduced and then at some level of fluency into the product. Sean, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that in terms of this process.
No, I think after these stages, that's where we typically we're not going to cover that today, but it's where we typically hand it off to our customer success team or to like partners like yourself to help the customer successfully adopt after a POC stage into their production or, kind of deployment methodology. So
100%. Next up, I know a lot of us are in the security space. We deal with personas all the time. This is essentially our template where we are looking at who are we targeting from a conversation perspective, from an engagement perspective, from a persona perspective. Who are the individuals that we want to talk to when we get into some sort of motion, or we have an interested prospect, or we're trying to help a customer. This is at the mainly obviously at the C level, right? So we have engagements that we're sometimes speaking to a CEO, where the questions there have to be very business oriented. They can be reputation oriented as well, but they're very high level, right? And I'm sure a lot of us are familiar. When you distill maybe down into a CISO and CIO, you will be able to get into questions that are a little bit more technical, right? As an example here in the first column, we could see the CEO question is, does my company have a good reputation? For the CISO, it's, are the assets well defended, right? So it's a little bit more of a technical question. You can start talking about things relating to visibilities and control and resilience. And obviously with the CFO level, things that are relevant to cost and financials and resources. Switching a little bit further down here, I think the majority of our conversations are occurring subsequently at this level, right? More at the practitioner, manager level, whether it's somebody that handles infrastructure, whether it's cloud architecture or network infrastructure, right? Or even at the level of a security operation or DevOps. This is where our questions become much more pointed. And we will even, I think oftentimes in the conversations, want to elicit some pieces from the platform or some technical aspects that we actually are showing the product and how it manifests, based on some of the responses that we're getting from these practitioners. We may start at the manager level. I think we have a lot of success once we get into the practitioner level, meaning maybe it's individual analysts, individual architects that are working underneath these managers that are usually the ones handling the actual product usage or the daily operations, where we can spend time with them, understand what they're doing, provided them our solutions, and then see how they feel about that. Sean, anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think one thing important to call out here is, especially around CNAPP and Defender for Cloud, is not all opportunities stem from the security team or organization. Quite often we work solely with like especially in the ISV space, like product teams responsible for product development, and opportunities rely specifically with their team and their management and their organizational structure. Especially a lot of big organizations have different levels of who's responsible for risk at the organization, who is responsible for budget, and how that kind of works throughout the whole organization, or like M&As as well. So opportunities from a sales perspective can kind of come from all different sides of the house in the business, especially around Defender for Cloud.
And we'll be able to share this presentation, obviously, after the session's over, but these are more specific questions that you can use in these conversations with the C-level. These ones are specifically geared towards the CISO, right? You can see some of these bold words, right? Top priorities. How are you responding to threats and incidents? What are some of the biggest challenges? I think some of these you just have to be careful in terms of not having them too broad, right? Ask these questions in a way where then the response from the individual, you have your response built, that you have an ability to actually provide a solution to the issues, right? I think maybe a question like, well, what are your biggest challenges may elicit an answer that is so wide and so broad that you may not have a good rebuttal to it. But tailor some of these questions in ways where you have a good response in terms of what you're offering. The previous slide was some of the high level, C-level questions. These, again, are some more specific questions for a security manager, a DevOps director, and network infrastructure. And you can see how the content of these questions changes based off the role. Some goals that we go through in terms of being within the selling process, right? You saw a lot of demos today about the entire Defender for Cloud platform. We strive to, and we always, want to elevate the conversation and aim for a horizon standpoint to talk about CNAPP, right? The holistic platform, which includes all the different aspects and workloads that Julio and Fernanda went through in these past few hours, right? The idea there is we're not only looking at a specific piece within the platform, but it's holistic in terms of things like multi-cloud coverage and our threat protection, life cycle, and then development to runtime, right? It's the full suite. That's what we aim for. There is an aspect now when you start looking at it from a piece by piece perspective. And again, we saw this in the past few demos, right? We have CSPM, we have DevOps, we have strong integrations with our stack in terms of our XDR 365 platform, our SIM Sentinel, threat intelligence and compliance. I, for example, came from an acquisition called Risk IQ a few years ago. We brought a commercialized threat intelligence capability to Microsoft as part of our acquisition. We also want to focus on specific features that we feel we're very strong at. For example, attack path analysis, the Cloud Security Explorer, the ability to create either your own built queries or custom queries that you can dig into what we're providing from a product perspective and an insight perspective in a custom way or in an automated way, right? And we're always wanting to stress that despite being Microsoft, we are able to cover AWS and GCP from a cloud perspective. We, of course, excel in Azure, but we also excel in coverage of Amazon and Google as well. And as I mentioned previously, leading with the free CSPM capabilities because it's a good landing zone to start off, right? Where you're not asking for any cost in return. John, anything to broaden on this?
I think just to highlight the free CSPM stuff in AWS and GCP, we still talk to customers all the time that aren't up to date on Microsoft products, and it was very intentional for us to rebrand what was formerly Azure Security Center into Defender for Cloud to remove that kind of stagnant idea that we only cover Azure. And we run into customers all the time, especially in today's economy, that they don't have budget to fully leverage everything in a CNAPP platform. And even in the next slide, we'll kind of go into a little bit about competitive stuff, but even our competitors don't really offer any free basic cloud security posture management capabilities. And we've seen great success of getting customers that don't have a lot of budget into a long-term strategic selling process to leverage those free capabilities across AWS, GCP, and Azure. And also to point out too, like this kind of goes to this compete slide that I'll dive into a little bit more as well. But other competitors out there offer like native integration into Oracle Cloud or other cloud providers out there. Although we don't offer like native integration, we can extend into specific workloads like Kubernetes and servers using Azure Arc, and you get the full capabilities of Defender for Cloud against those types of resources. So that's been really key and successful for us as well, is being able to integrate on-premise environments with Azure Arc to get full capabilities of those free CSPM functionality or the additional paid features of some of the workload threat protection capabilities that are listed here. Yeah,
there is a
along the
question in chat there, Sean and Or, since you're talking about how we are positioning protection, how do we help our customers understand how MDC can protect like Fabric, mostly Azure Fabric, I believe?
Azure Fabric, I don't think we have anything specific targeted for Azure like Fabric today, as far as what MDC integrates in with. So I'll have to take that back and just confirm, but
Sure, sounds good. Sure.
Yeah, diving into competing. So especially in our customer base as ISVs, software development companies like Microsoft. Traditionally, we do find most of the time that there's another vendor already in this space. We weren't obviously the first vendor around, like specifically Palo Alto and Wiz are some of our two biggest competitors in the CNAPP space overall. But if we can't win a deal on specifically our holistic platform, we typically can win deals on our workload threat protection features because they are much more mature and better offerings than what our competitors provide. And a lot of customers that Or and I have worked with as well do tend to favor native security capabilities in cloud providers. Well, they'll want to leverage, like for their Azure resources, they'll want to leverage native Azure security capabilities because it's much easier for them to manage. It's usually a little bit cheaper from an operational perspective, and it just provides better capabilities. Specifically on the Azure side of the house, that's going to be things like Defender for storage, Defender for SQL and open source relational databases, Defender for Key Vault, and Defender for Resource Manager. I haven't seen any of our competitors really be able to match some of the capabilities we have in there or keep up with us on specific capabilities that you think of, like Defender for storage expanding into malware scanning. Now we're seeing like Wiz and Palo Alto and other CNAPP providers kind of try to catch up to us, but it's not really natively integrated into essentially like Azure storage accounts. Like we have a very back-end native integration into that because we obviously own it. So when you're talking to customers, again, we try to strive for CNAPP all up holistically, but there's always potential, and like over and over again, we have seen potential where customers will adopt specific workload threat protection capabilities in this area. I would say the other key point that we differentiate ourselves in quite a bit is around the data security, posture management features, integrations with Defender for Cloud. There's just really no one else out there vendor-wise, either from data security or in the CNAPP space that can match what we have there because we integrate directly with Microsoft Purview, or we have native backend integrations with the Purview stack that allow a little bit easier data sensitivity discovery capabilities in Defender for Cloud. Next slide, unless you had anything to add there, or
no, we can move over to the POC process. Again, I'm sure that many of us within the selling org are familiar with typical templates for POC process. We follow a very similar process, right? As I mentioned, in the initial engagements, discoveries, similar to the kickoff of a POC, we want to align ourselves on technical requirements and objectives, right? Oftentimes, this begins with what I mentioned earlier. Are we going for a full CNAPP I know that CNAPP platform here is kind of redundant, but the full platform capability, or are we looking at specific workloads, right? As Sean mentioned, we may be in a competitive situation and we want to only work on a specific workload. This will obviously change the timetable and it changes the content that we want to cover as well, right? We want to understand what is the timeline, right? We have an ability to provide a trial for 30, 60, 90 days. That's access we can provide free of charge for a customer. We want to understand what's their timeline that they want to have something in place, or what is the timeline that they need time for evaluation and testing. As part of that, a team like me and Sean and others as well, we have full teams and a full spectrum of different roles and capabilities. We want to bring those people on into our engagements with the customer and ideally have touch points on a weekly basis where we can show off the platform, talk about feedback, and understand how we're tracking in terms of success. And then finally, we also obviously want to talk about cost and pricing, right? Do we need to go back to our deal desk and ask for potential concessions in terms of price in relation to the budget that the customer has? And I know we're 8 minutes left, so we're going to start going through this a little bit quicker. Sean, if you want to touch on what we try in terms of, enabling stuff at the beginning and really digging into this settings piece right at the beginning.
Yeah, I did also post a link in chat. There's a full in-depth POC guide that Julio and Fernandez team really helped maintain. So provide that to customers and leverage it. Our goal for a whole CNAPP POC is obviously to turn on all plans. Specifically, if you need to kind of focus, Defender CSPM with all those capabilities is really key from a successful POC strategy. Even if the customer is only specifically interested in, say, Defender for servers, all these plans have trials available for them. So leverage that capability when you're driving a POC, and I'd always recommend turning on Defender CSPM alongside any other threat protection or detection workload plans. Next slide. Trying to get through this pretty quickly. Part of the POC is as what we try to do here, and also we're happy to bring in partners in this space to help like yourselves, to lead the customer through this as well. But we want to make sure that the customer uses the capabilities in a meaningful manner. And as part of that, it's kind of like ongoing sessions with them, training them on the platform, making sure they're seeing value out of it. Again, really driving into leveraging some of the CSPM functionality around attack path analysis and Cloud Security Explorer is really key to helping us win against our competitors in that space, because it's not just about, you cover X, Y, and Z from security hardening recommendations. It's how can I take the risk back to my organization and help articulate that to make it more meaningful for my organization and help me remediate and identify issues in a more quicker manner. Next slide. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take this, and then you can take the next ones. In terms of pricing, we have two options really. First of all, our pricing is available online, so we're transparent, and it's publicly available. The figures here will be a little bit different because we're looking at, for example, in the bottom right here, a price per server, per asset, per hour, but also within the platform. Oh, let me go back to this. Within the platform, and I'll go back. We do have specific prices. For example, you could see in Defender CSPM, $5 per billable resource per month, and you can see so on and so forth with the servers. We do have, and I'm just going through this, we do have a new purchase plan that I'll pass it over to Sean to just summarize real quick.
Yeah, so this recently came out this last month. It's called Pre-Purchase Plan, also known as P3. It essentially is kind of similar to how a customer would traditionally buy think about a reservation for virtual machines. Very similar. So a customer buys a certain tier that you can see here, and they get an effective discount off of what they purchase. So if they wanted a value of $350K on tier 10, they would only pay $273K against it. And that this is a commitment unit, so it locks them into a 12-month period where they burn down these Defender for Cloud commitment units over that time period. These apply to any Defender workload, so it's not that you don't buy it specifically for something like Defender for Servers or Defender CSPM. The customer purchases it, they assign it to their however they want to scope it to in their enrollment and billing in the Azure portal, and then it's just consumed over that time period once it's from the purchase. During any time, you can always purchase more commitment units. So it's a flexible way for customers to kind of go and save money out of the gate. And for us as sellers, it locks customers into a longer term, like at least 1-year commitment. We're kind of one of the only CNAPP vendors in the space, because we're a consumption-based product that customers could easily consume or get rid of us. But this kind of gives us a way to lock customers in for at least a year period. So if you're not aware of this, there's doc pages on it. It's in the pricing page now, so become familiar with it. And I would lead with this during customer conversations moving forward.
Yep. There is a quick question there in chat as well. Like there are so many plans here. So is it mandatory to enable Defender for CSPM plan if we want to enable only the Defender for Servers plan?
No, it's not mandatory. But think about Defender CSPM as how can I get value out of the specific threat protection or detection plans from a larger picture. So if you just had Defender for Servers enabled, you didn't enable Defender CSPM, you wouldn't be able to really see like attack path analysis or correlation to other types of resources, identities, DevOps environments that you have in related to servers that you're protecting. So.
Makes sense. One more follow-up question there from Carlos regarding the previous slide, I believe. Can you elaborate more on the commit units? How do they translate to resources?
How do they translate to resources? So again, it's applicable to all Defender plans that you have enabled. It's not resource specific. So it's essentially like buying like a credit. Like I have, $350,000 to spend against Defender for Cloud. That's going to apply to any workload protection feature that you have turned on the subscription, where you have this pre-purchase plan kind of set up from a billing alignment. So,
yeah, it's essentially a credit. So, for example, CSPM, $5 a billable resource. Those are 5 commit units per resource per month.
Right.
And I'm just going to skip ahead here. I just want to mention there's a cost estimation piece within the platform that gives you a more accurate price. Sean, I'm just going to skip over this thing in terms of a template of a deal. We wanted to share a quick win here. Sean, maybe you just should we talk about this win, or should we talk about real quick how we can work together? Maybe the working together piece as well. A little bit more relevant in the last minute.
They go hand in hand. The win was kind of based off about how Or and I work together with other sellers in Microsoft. So other sellers that are like handling, core Azure or data and AI. The orchestration model that we have here can be extended to partners like yourselves. So like I said, opportunities are discovered in different areas of the business. It's important for us to partner together to take those opportunities to the next level by bringing in like dedicated security sellers that really understand the CNAPP market and our platform, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and the rest of our XDR stack. But specifically, we're here to help you, and you're here to help us. So really, I'm sure you guys all have account team members and stuff that you're already familiar with on how to contact, but really just try to bring us in as much as possible for helping to win these deals and, essentially make us both money at the end of the day.
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. We can help with further product expertise, maybe give insight about a customer's infrastructure from what we can see. And then it gives you opportunities as a partner to leverage services that we may not have that you can help the customer with. And I know we're right on time, so we'll stop it here in terms of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Or and Sean. That was a great insight into how to position the product.
Thank you.
Bye, folks.